And that's the breaking news coming in from the war zone. All right, we shift our focus to more updates coming in, viewers, amidst the war. French President Emmanuel Macron is in Japan, and he said that he's agreed with Japan on the importance of restoring freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz. So he will be holding talks. He is holding talks there in Japan. French President Emmanuel Macron, and discussing the situation in the Strait of Hormuz. Right now, we are getting to know that they are willing to back Japan as far as navigating in the Strait of Hormuz is concerned. Japanese Prime Minister Takaichi says they agreed to work with France to open the Strait of Hormuz. And we've seen, viewers, that how Japan has been expecting support. In fact, 19th of March, we saw Japan and France issuing a statement with UK, Germany, Italy and the Netherlands pledging to work together to ensure safe passage through the strait and stabilize the global energy markets. And now we see that that French President Macron meeting Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi in Tokyo, a bilateral agenda roiled by the West Asia crisis and the global repercussions. And they have discussed the maritime security issues in the Strait of Hormuz. All right, viewers, now, as Israel's aggressive bombardment against Hezbollah in Beirut of Lebanon continues, Defense Minister of Israel, Katz, has threatened to destroy all the houses along the southern Lebanon border and the nearby villages. Now, Israel has warned that it will destroy all the houses in the Lebanese villages, and 600,000 people who fled the south will not be allowed home until northern Israel is secure. He further added that Israeli troops would stay in an area seized during its invasion. Take a look at this report.
Israel is trying to push Hezbollah militants out of southern Lebanon. But Hezbollah continues to resist, firing rockets across the border into Israel. And now, Israel's defense minister says the campaign could morph into a prolonged occupation along the southern parts of Lebanon.
בסיומה של הפעולה, צה"ל התייצב במרחב ביטחון בתוך לבנון, בקו הגנה מול טילי הנ"ט, וישלוט ביטחונית בכל המרחב עד הליטני, כולל גשרי הליטני שנשארו, תוך חיסול כוחות רדואן שחדרו למרחב והשמדת כל אמצעי הלחימה שנמצאים שם. בנוסף, תאפשר באופן מוחלט חזרתם דרומית לליטני, שלמעלה מ-600,000 תושבי דרום לבנון שהתפנו צפונה עד שיובטח ביטחונם ושלומם של תושבי הצפון.
Israel wants to take control of approximately 30 kilometers of land north of the Israeli-Lebanon border. Defense Minister Katz also said that villages along the region would be evacuated.
כל הבתים בכפרים סמוכי הגבול בלבנון יהרסו, בהתאם למודל רפיח ובית חנון בעזה, כדי להסיר אחת ולתמיד את האיומים סמוכי הגבול מעל תושבי הצפון.
Meanwhile, the ongoing Israeli operation inside Lebanon is exacting a heavy toll. The Israeli representative to the United Nations Security Council said that the death of 3 UN peacekeepers in the region were due to an explosive set-off by the Hezbollah.
אנחנו נחושים להפריד את לבנון מזירת איראן ולעקור את שיני הנחש ולהסיר מהחיזבאללה את יכולת האיום ולשנות אחת ולתמיד את המצב בלבנון עם נוכחות ביטחונית של צה"ל במקומות נדרשים תוך אכיפה קפדנית והרתעה מוחלטת. בדיוק כמו בסוריה ובעזה, כך גם בלבנון.
The war inside Lebanon is also exacting a toll on the IDF. 4 IDF soldiers were killed and 2 others were injured. citizens are paying the price for the Israeli invasion into Lebanon. As per reports, more than 12 lakh people have been displaced from Lebanon since the outbreak of the war, and the number is only expected to rise further.
All right, now we're getting in some visuals. This is high-resolution imagery from Iran that shows the visible damage, visible destruction at the Ardakan yellow cake production plant in Iran. That's very crucial for its uranium production. And this is coming in, an image that is dated 28th of March, appears to show heavy damage to the key processing areas at the site. Plays an important role in the early stage of Iran's uranium fuel cycle, viewers. So there you have the visual of the Ardakan production. We're just going to play that out. And yellow cake, viewers, is actually uranium oxide concentrate. It's a powder obtained from leaching uranium ore and serves as an intermediate step in processing uranium for nuclear fuel. And now we get this visual from that plant in Iran. And the missiles have struck that, what we understand. This shows visible damage. You can see those black areas as well. This is Iran's Ardakan production plant. It's a yellow cake factory, and this is struck in Iran. And that's, of course, could be a blow to at least that facility. It's important for the uranium enrichment, nuclear fuel, and trying to, of course, US and Israel trying to show that they are hitting those facilities that are part of what they accuse Iran to be having for building nuclear weapons. In fact, we have now breaking news coming in from Bahrain. Iranian missiles have struck the headquarters of Bahrain's largest telecommunications company, the Batelco, and reportedly it also houses the Amazon Web Services infrastructure in what appears to be Tehran's first direct hit on a US corporate asset after Iran vowed to target the American companies. Officials say that fire crews containing blaze as authorities investigate the extent of the damage that indicate a wider regional conflict. So Tehran had already warned that it's going to hit American companies. Is going to go all out against the American corporate offices and infrastructure. And this is Bahrain's strike that just follows Iran's warning on American firms. It's a reported strike on, the strike has been reported at the Batelco headquarters in Ramallah, triggering fresh concerns about the widening scope of the Iran war. And you can see that this could be a possible shift towards corporate linked targets. And this is, in fact, one of the visuals that's doing the rounds. The site is associated with infrastructure supporting Amazon Web Services, also Amazon Web Services operation in the region. Extent, of course, not yet known, extent of the damage. But yes, my colleague Ishita joins us for more. Ishita, well, clearly we've seen that Iran has been warning the American companies it's going to hit the infrastructure. And so it has, at least reportedly, it has hit this telecom company in Bahrain and also the associated office, which has the Amazon services as well.
Right, of course, Rakshita, there was a warning that was issued by IRGC yesterday that all of the American giants which are in fact aiding its war efforts against Iran will be targeted by IRGC. They had become fair and legitimate targets according to Iranian army. Just yesterday, this warning was issued, and now we are looking at attacks unfolding all across the Gulf nations which are targeting these American giants. Now remember, they are in fact the plank for all of these Gulf nations which have been pivoting away from their oil-dependent economies. They were their means to in fact get some revenues outside their oil sources, and now these American giants are being targeted across the Gulf nations. This latest attack, in fact, has come on Bahrain's largest telecommunications company, Batelco. It's reportedly housing Amazon Web Services infrastructure. Now, we had seen attacks taking place on Amazon warehouses in Dubai as well, and now again another attack which is linked to Amazon, and this comes right after IRGC issued a warning that American giants have now become legitimate and fair targets as it expands its target list all across the Gulf nations. Rakshita.
All right, just turn with us, Ishita. We have another breaking news coming in from the war zone. 12A-10C Thunderbolt also known as the Warthog, is spotted landing at the Royal Air Force Lakenheath on Monday evening. And that's the update. We have another contingent expected to now arrive on Tuesday night amid speculation that they were heading towards West Asia to participate in US operations against Iran. Now, US military would not comment on this mission, of course, right? But the US, this is an update on a possible participation at the US ground attack. This is the aircraft that has landed at the UK base, at the British base. And American ground attack aircraft landing at the UK base. Ishita continues to be with us. Well, clearly, UK has allowed United States to use its bases, and we see that this could be just another step as far as the ground operations in Iran is concerned.
All around. On one side, he says he could wind down the war in about 2 to 3 weeks. And on the other side, he keeps the option of combat very much alive. Now, we have seen another carrier strike group arriving in Middle East. And this time, it is the Warthog, which has landed at a UK base in Middle East. Now, this means he is keeping the option of escalations alive in case it does not go his way. Now, this Warthog, it's an aircraft which is used to provide support to the ground troops and also very effective in targeting targets such as tankers and armored vehicles on the ground, so which means there could be an option of escalation in this case if Warthog is used in the war ahead.
Right, many thanks for joining us there, Ishta, with those details coming in. Viewers, meanwhile, we have Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu claiming that joint Israel-US military operation against Iran has systematically crushed Iran and left its military capabilities considerably weakened. More in this report.
Marking the one-month anniversary of the joint US-Israeli operation against Iran, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israeli forces had been systematically crushing the Tehran regime.
במלאת חודש למערכה המשותפת שלנו ושל ארצות הברית, אנחנו קודשים בשיטתיות את משטר האימים שקרה במשך עשרות שנים, מוות לאמריקה, מוות לישראל.
Netanyahu said Iran still had a limited launch capability to threaten Israel but could no longer threaten its existence.
שברנו את כוחם של צבאות הטרור של איראן שהקיפו אותנו בטבעת חנק. זה נכון, יש להם עדיין יכולת שיורית לאיים עלינו, אבל הם כבר אינם יכולים לאיים על קיומנו, לשגר רבבות טילים בליסטיים ורקטות שנועדו להחריב את ערי ישראל.
Netanyahu praised the cooperation with the US and said he hoped to soon be able to speak about new alliances in the region.
לפני המבצעים נלחמנו לבד נגד איראן. היום אנחנו נלחמים כתף אל כתף עם ארצות הברית, בשיתוף פעולה היסטורי חסר תקדים בין הנשיא טראמפ לביני ובין צבא ארצות הברית וצבא ההגנה לישראל. לא רק שחיזקנו את הברית עם ארצות הברית, אנחנו גם יוצרים בריתות חדשות עם מדינות חשובות באזור נגד האיום האיראני המשותף, ואני מקווה שבקרוב, אזרחי ישראל, אני אוכל לספר לכם יותר על הבריתות החשובות האלה.
The Israeli Prime Minister further asserted buffer zones beyond Israeli borders were established to keep off invasions.
ביססנו רצועות ביטחון עמוק מעבר לגבולותינו. בעזה, למעלה ממחצית שטח הרצועה. בסוריה, מכתר החרמון ועד הירמוך. ובלבנון, באזור חיץ נרחב שמסכל את איום הפלישה ומרחיק את איום ירי טילי הנ"ט על יישובינו.
Netanyahu asserted Iran has been launching fewer missiles now than at the start of the war, but continues to deploy more low-lying drones that are harder to intercept. The conflict has killed more than 3,000 people in the region and millions have been displaced in Lebanon and Iran.
And now Republic TV takes you inside Israel. The situation on ground zero. There is destruction that is visible in central Israel as Iran continues to pound the sites, the locations in central Israel. Here's a report by my colleague Nick Colleton.
This apartment was completely destroyed from one part of a cluster munition of Iranian ballistic missile. You can see that the destruction all around is massive, and the family that was living here, children, women, men, they saved their lives because they ran to shelter on time. They had about 10 minutes to find the shelter, and if they wouldn't do that, probably nobody could survive in this apartment. You can see how vast is the destruction here all around, and the second floor completely destroyed. We can't go there because it's not safe, but you can see from here, just from here, how massive is the destruction. But the security forces saying to us that we can't go to the second floor because it can collapse. You can see the ceiling is not protected too much, and all these buildings maybe can collapse. That's why we can stand just here, not for a long time.
As the conflict in West Asia rages, its ripples can now be felt in the Indian aviation sector. Citing the Hormuz crisis as one of the major reasons, the government of India announced a 25% hike in turbine fuel, the aviation fuel for domestic routes. When with this, passengers now are bracing for an airfare hike, whereas experts are saying a prolonged crisis is not really good for the aviation economy. Watch this report.
The war in West Asia has taken a heavy toll, both on energy infrastructure and supply routes. As a result, energy prices across the world are soaring. And now the Indian aviation sector will also feel the heat from this global crisis. This is because aviation turbine fuel has reached a record high and crossed the 2 lakh rupee mark for the first time. The government announced a 25% hike in air turbine fuel for domestic routes, citing the constraints on Strait of Hormuz as a prominent reason. While domestic routes will face a 25% hike, foreign routes are set to face a full increase in fuel price consistent with global current rates. As the aviation sector takes a hit due to global energy crisis, Republic also spoke to major energy stakeholders.
There are two parts. As far as crude oil is concerned, there is not much of a problem. Yes, there is on the gas part there is a problem because a Strait of Hormuz, through a Strait of Hormuz around 60% of our LNG comes. So our LNG requirement is primarily being met by the volume from the Qatar and Oman that is passing through the Strait of Hormuz. So definitely this war-like situation has created disruptions in the country.
A prolonged energy crisis.
We have breaking news coming in right now, viewers. This is on the Anil Ambani case. CBI has registered case against Anil Ambani of Reliance Communications. This is in the multi-crore scam case. FIR registered by the CBI on the basis of complaint filed by LIC. So the CBI has registered this case against Anil Ambani and Reliance Communications. CBI registering the FIR based on complaint filed by the LIC. And that's the breaking news we are getting in right now. We'll get you more updates on that. This is an update coming in as far as the Anil Ambani case is concerned, and case has been registered in against the FIR has been, in fact, a new FIR. This is filed by the LIC, and this is CBI has of course filed him as an accused in there, and this is a fresh FIR that has been filed against Anil Ambani. This is filed by the LIC, and we've seen already trouble has been mounting for Anil Ambani. There is an earlier complaint as well that has been registered by the CBI in the bank fraud case. So we've seen that Anil Ambani has been in the news. He has been grilled by the CBI for hours and hours and hours in the bank fraud case, and now there's trouble mounting for Anil Ambani. CBI sources tell us that transactions are going to be now examined. LIC has filed this FIR against Anil Ambani and Reliance Communications. Shravan Sen, Deputy Executive Editor, joins us on the broadcast. For more, Shravan, tell us more details about this FIR.
Well, in fact, this is the copy of the FIR that has now been accessed by Republic TV, and I'm just going to take you through the charges that have been leveled. Who are the accused? Accused number one, as per this FIR copy, is Reliance Communications Limited. The second accused is Anil Ambani. The third accused happens to be unknown public servants and unknown persons. Now, that's the list of the accused. Now, this is the fourth FIR that has now been registered against Reliance Communication. And as far as Anil Ambani is also concerned, this is yet another case that has been registered by the Central Bureau of Investigation. In fact, as of now, the Central Bureau of Investigation's Banking Fraud Department is essentially looking into the charges that have been leveled by various banks against companies that have been linked to Anil Ambani. In fact, Anil Ambani all this while has been maintaining that this company, which is accused number one, Reliance Communication, is not a director of that company, and that is the reason why the fraud does not really stand to his name. Now, what are the charges that have been leveled? Now, this happens to be the copy of the complaint that has been filed by the LIC. LIC has filed this complaint against Reliance Communications, erstwhile non-executive director and chairman Anil Ambani, unknown public servants and unknown others, of committing offence under sections 120B, that's criminal conspiracy, section 13 under the Prevention of Corruption Act. Now, they are basically saying, and they are basically accused that the complainant here, that's the life insurance, LIC, which happens to be a statutory body. Now, I'm going to go to page number 2. In fact, this is exactly what they have said, that RCom, which happens to be a public listed company, they had received money under the resolution plan. The fraudulent inducement subscription to the NCDs, in fact, this is roughly about 4,758 crore rupees, and thereafter this was basically seen as default and non-payment because RCom had failed to honor its payment obligations. Now, this is a similar sort of a charge that has been leveled against Reliance Communication as well as Anil Ambani, that is about receiving funds, using it for a different purpose altogether, and effectively siphoning off the funds and not returning the money, or basically not being obligated to the payment conditions. Now, that is the reason why this is yet another case that has been registered against Anil Ambani and Reliance Communications.
Certainly, big trouble, more trouble for Anil Ambani. Thanks so much, Shravan, for joining us. We'll keep coming back to you for more updates on that story. Meanwhile, viewers, we'll sit into a very, very short break. We're right back with more news and updates.
In the India Today Best Universities Survey, India's #1 ranked universities in various streams are JNU Delhi, Amity University, AIIMS Delhi, IIT Delhi, and National Law School, Bengaluru.
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद यही तो है इसकी खास बात। वाओ मम्मा, क्या स्वाद है? अरे मेरे राजा, सबका राजा आरती और मसाला।
हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें हर चुनौती के लिए तैयार रहना ही होगा। जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं। आदरणीय सभापति जी, ये संकट अलग प्रकार का है और इसके समाधान भी अलग प्रकार से ही तय किए जा रहे हैं। हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। आदरणीय सभापति जी, जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं, इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें
चमकी चाट से क्या बना है?
आलू चाट या फ्रूट चाट,
स्वाद बनाए चमकी चाट।
क्या बात है? स्वादिष्ट पकोड़े और फरसान, अरे चमकी चाट है इसकी जान।
असली स्वाद सिर्फ चमकी चाट।
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे। केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
आर प्योर शाही पनीर मसाला, डिलीशियस, हेल्दी एवरीडे।
हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें हर चुनौती के लिए तैयार रहना ही होगा। जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं। आदरणीय सभापति जी, ये संकट अलग प्रकार का है और इसके समाधान भी अलग प्रकार से ही तय किए जा रहे हैं। हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। आदरणीय सभापति जी, जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं, इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें हर चुनौती के लिए तैयार रहना ही होगा।
From Asia's largest news headquarters, setting the agenda for Bharat. You're watching Republic.
Trump says he is strongly considering pulling out of NATO after allies failed to back US action against Iran. Prime Minister Narendra Modi set to chair a cabinet committee on security meeting this evening on the West Asian situation. Government announces 25% hike in air turbine fuel for domestic routes. Foreign flight routes to face a full increase as passengers brace for airfare hike. Commercial LPG cylinder prices increase across India. Food businesses look at a hit after price hike. Hours after Iranian minister's interview to Republic, Tehran moves United Nations strongly protests use of Gulf nations territories by the United States. A US base in Iraq hit US Victoria, military base in Baghdad, hit by fresh overnight strikes led by Iraqi separatists backed by Iran. The US backtracks on Iran's uranium as President Trump admits extracting stockpile would be hard since it would be kept deep, or it is kept deep underground. Iran trades guns on tech firms and issues warnings, says major tech firm offices in the Gulf are fair targets and warns them to evacuate their staff. Anil Ambani in big trouble. CBI registers FIR based on a complaint filed by LIC. All right, welcome back, friends, to this 4 p.m. live and breaking. The Central Bureau of Investigation, which is already investigating some scams connected with the Reliance Anil Ambani Group companies has now registered a fresh case against Anil Ambani's Reliance Communications. The CBI has registered this complaint based on, registered this FIR based on a complaint filed by the Life Insurance Corporation or LIC. The LIC has claimed Anil Ambani and Arcom caused wrongful loss of about 3,750 crore rupees or roughly 4,000 crore rupees. This is made on the basis of a forensic audit report which the LIC seems to have submitted to the CBI, which the CBI, the agency, would now be examining. LIC has claimed wrongful loss of this money caused by Anil Ambani and his group company. And for what the CBI is thinking on this complaint and the FIR, let's go to Shawan. He's joining us live from the newsroom for more on this. Shawan, what are the CBI sources telling you about this fresh complaint by the LIC? LIC is claiming that they were defrauded or fraudulently made to invest in NCDs. What was LIC's system of checks and balances before making that investment? And has the CBI taken the complaint and registered an FIR?
Well, LIC in its complaints maintains that they were induced, and the fact that there were false representations made by Reliance Communication, and also there is an indication that they're giving that the management was basically responsible for those false representation. That's quote unquote from the complaint that has been filed, received by the Central Bureau of Investigation. They are saying that as far as the NCDs are concerned, it is about 4,500 crore rupees that you're looking at, wrongful loss of about 3,750 crore rupees. And in fact, there is an audit that was being done by another company based on which they had come to a conclusion that they've been defrauded. In fact, this was the forensic audit report was carried out back in 2020. What is not known from this particular FIR as to why exactly has LIC now complained when they're essentially relying on a forensic audit that was done back in 2020. That clarity doesn't really come in from this FIR. But I'll just quickly take you through the key highlights of this FIR that has been registered, in which you have yet again Reliance Communication. This is an FIR that has been registered today. That's the 1st of April. And in which you have Reliance Communication as accused number 1. Accused number 2 happens to be Anil Ambani, and of course there are unknown public servants and unknown persons. Now, as far as the sections are concerned, it is section 120B, 406, 420, and under the Prevention of Corruption Act, there are various other sections that have also been invoked. Now, this is the copy of the complaint that has been filed by LIC, in which they are once again heavily relying on the forensic audit report, in which they say misutilization of funds that have been raised from banks and financial institutions, which includes RCOM, RITL and RTL, which they are saying cumulatively received a total of about 31,000 crore rupees from banks and financial institutions, which also includes LIC. They are alleging routing of funds through subsidiaries, misuse of sales invoice financing, and discounting of fictitious bills. Let me just try and simplify this. What are the charges here? The charges are this, that starting something from about 2012, 2013 is when tranches of loan were basically allegedly received by companies that have been linked to Anil Ambani. Reliance Communication happens to be one such company, but very important to highlight, Anil Ambani all this while has been maintaining that he isn't a director in the company. But if you look at this particular complaint that has been filed by LIC, they say it is against the non-executive director and chairman Anil Ambani and unknown public servants. So the question here, and something that the Central Bureau of Investigation is investing right now, is that whether at all the ultimate beneficiary happens to be Anil Ambani or not, because they suspect that the funds were being diverted. There are related companies, there are related parties through which these funds were diverted. Assets were basically gained outside India. That is something that the enforcement director Directorate is also looking at. In fact, the last prosecution complaint that has been filed, which is the charge sheet that has been filed against Reliance Communications, there is a mention of Reliance Communication there. It is about a yacht that has been bought outside and an apartment in Manhattan, which they believe that this was basically through funds that were, in a very surreptitious manner was taken out from India and basically through related parties invested in companies outside. So that is the reason why you're essentially looking at these complaints being looked into. As I understand, this happens to be the 4th FIR that has been registered against Reliance Communication itself.
Okay, Shravan, just a couple of follow-up questions. Going by the nature of the complaint, and you mentioned that this is the 4th such FIR in the case, are these all complaints or FIRs or investigations connected at the hip, so to say? They are part of the same ARCOM period of 2009 to 2012 when this scam is supposedly happened, and the government maintains that the total scam is about 40,000 crore rupees. So this 4,000 crore rupees of LIC is part of that 40,000 crore rupees, or in addition to that existing scam?
Well, the period that you're looking at is post 2012, 2012 and 2013 onwards that you're looking at. Of course, there is an increase perhaps after 2014. And in fact, if you're looking at the number of FIRs that have been registered, yes, the Banking and Fraud Department of the Central Bureau of Investigation at some stage would be looking at it in a cumulative manner. It would not be looked at as a separate case. In fact, if you remember the first case that was registered, that was in which a charge sheet has already been filed. This was in the Yes Bank case, where they had basically come across some of these transactions that had basically taken place. So effectively, you would be looking at all of these cases being clubbed together at some stage, but this is at a very preliminary stage, if I may say so, because roughly about over a dozen banks are basically under the scanner. Some have already filed a complaint, like Bank of Baroda being one such complainant. The other happens to be State Bank of India, and now we have LIC as yet another complainant. As far as the total loss that you're looking at, or the figure that is being probed, I was given to understand it was roughly about 31,000 crore rupees, but this was with regards to the previous cases. Now this being brought in, and some changes there, it is up upward trend of about 40,000 crore rupees that is being looked into by the Central Bureau of Investigation.
Shravan, so that now that FIR is registered, what happens next? Because there are already other FIRs and the probe is in multiple stages. What happens next? Do the FIRs get clubbed in? Is the same SIT or the team investigating the cases going to pick up this FIR also?
Well, it's the same Banking and Fraud Department that would be looking into as far as the CBI's investigation is concerned. Now, whether at all it would be clubbed, given the fact there are separate complaints, but the nature of the complaint happens to be the same. So the process of the investigation would be the same. Now, what are we really looking at? As I understand, there are forensic auditors that have been brought on the table right now by the Central Bureau of Investigation, which would essentially be looking into the transactions that have taken place. Because remember, these are not cash transactions that you're looking at. These are account-to-account transactions that have taken place, which requires a forensic auditor. In fact, banks have also been asked to provide further details of the loans that were given to them, and on what basis, on what grounds were the all these loans that were given, because these were loans given despite weak financials of the company. Now, that's the argument that has been made so far. For the CBI, right now, the focus is to basically track those transactions, look into the criminal conspiracy. That would also mean collusion with bank officials, because that's where effectively their entire, the fulcrum of this entire investigation is going to lie in. And as far as the Enforcement Directorate is concerned, they are certainly at an advanced stage where they've been able to look into the money trail as far as the money flow is concerned. And that is the reason why several assets have already been attached by the Enforcement Directorate.
So that brings me to the next question, Shravan, which is that typically every case of this nature which is being investigated by the CBI also gets picked up by the Enforcement Directorate, and a parallel PMLA probe starts. And the kind of offences that you were mentioning about siphoning off funds, routing the money to foreign shores and buying properties in Manhattan, etc., that makes for a PMLA probe also. So in that case,
Does this FIR also translate into the possibility of this getting into an ED probe as well?
Well, effectively, yes, because this happens to be the predicate offence, the original FIR based on which the Enforcement Directorate has also looked into. So this also becomes a predicate offence. But having said that, since the Enforcement Directorate is already at an advanced stage, perhaps this is going to be seen as an addendum to their current case. So you're not going to look at another ECIR, which is an FIR equivalent in ED to be filed. This is going to be an addendum to their current FIR that has already been registered. So as far as the Enforcement Directorate is concerned, this is going to be part of an ongoing investigation rather than a separate case or rather than a separate FIR to be registered against Reliance Communication and Anil Ambani.
All right. Thank you so much, Shawan, with those details on another probe against Anil Ambani and his group company Arcom, among the multiple other cases that are going on. Moving on to the next story now, which is that we go to the war zone. Residents of northwestern Iranian city of Zanjan have gathered at the Hossein-e-Azam 1 day after the religious place was targeted in a joint US-Israeli attack. Remember, the number of heritage sites, cultural sites, even UNESCO designated sites have been attacked and hit this time in the war. This is one more, and these pictures, the outpouring of anger is anything but regime change insofar as these pictures are concerned. Unless these are AI pictures, we don't know, but if these are actual pictures, which we are told they are, then in Zanjan you can see people of Iran coming out and protesting against the United States and Israeli strikes. This is Hossein-e-Azam monument. This was hit by the Israeli side or the American side, and the people have come out and they are protesting. Can we hear the net sounds actually? Can we hear the net sounds? All right, moving on. Staying with the war. International Energy Agency, the IEA, has said that the current crisis is worse than the 1970s oil shock and the loss of Russian gas in 2022. The CEO of the agency has made this comment and specified in numbers that the loss of more than 12 million barrels per day from the oil supplies coming out of the Middle East due to the war is something which did not even happen during the 1970s crisis. Nearly 40 major energy assets in the Middle East are damaged due to the war, and it's going to be a long time before they are all back on stream. And that really gives you an idea of the kind of scale of energy crisis that the world is facing. This is a statement attributed to IEA. All right, moving on. Staying with the war, but moving on, and that's from Iran, where media reports suggest that the IRGC has taken control of, or effectively taken control of the government. They were anyway de facto in control. Iranian media reports suggest that the IRGC has put in its systems in a manner that they effectively control what happens in Tehran. They effectively control the foreign policy, they effectively control the domestic policy, and not just the security policy as was their original mandate. Remember, IRGC is not the official army of Iran. It is a paramilitary force, a militia, but nevertheless so powerful that it controls the government. And these are Iranian media reports. I believe we have Ishita joining us live from the newsroom on this in a bit, but if these reports are true and if these are coming in from Iran, essentially this is IRGC sending across a message that we are the boss, and if Donald Trump says that they are talking to anyone else apart from IRGC, then it's a hoax, and that it's a make-believe world the US president is living in. Remember, President Trump has said more than a couple of times in the last 72 hours that they are talking directly and indirectly both to Iranians, and that he's keeping it undisclosed whom they are talking to, because that can endanger the life of the person. And it seems it's not Mujtaba Khamenei, because according to Trump, he's either dead or incapacitated. Ishita is joining us live from the newsroom. Ishita, what are these media reports coming out of Tehran which suggest that IRGC has taken control? Is there a messaging somewhere here that if the Americans are not talking to IRGC, then they are talking to nobody of consequence?
Right, of course. Abhishek, the Iranian media reports have now highlighted that it is IRGC that's taken control of the government in Iran. It says that they're blocking up presidential appointments, and they've also now blocking up presidential decisions in this case. Now, it is a big change that could come in because it, as you mentioned before, it is an inside militia that controls mostly, dissenters and the protests that take place inside Iran. It's not something that has been dealing with external factors so far, but it seems right after Ayatollah Khamenei, IRGC was gaining control more and more. It was on the rise, and now it seems that they have taken control, according to Iranian media reports. Also raises questions about the fate of Mujtaba Khamenei. Now, we have seen Donald Trump claiming that Mujtaba Khamenei is either dead or in extremely bad shape, but we had also seen the Deputy Foreign Minister of Iran saying to Republic, in fact, just yesterday, Ismail Baghai, confirming that Mujtaba Khamenei is alive and is fine. But now this development saying that IRGC taking control of the government in Iran does raise the question about the fate and the condition of Mujtaba Khamenei. What is exactly which triggered IRGC to take control, and also the fact that this war could now escalate, because we have seen IRGC taking a lot of decisions regarding the attacks on Gulf nations. So if IRGC now is in control, this war could certainly escalate in West Asia.
All right, and in which case, Ishita, are we seeing are we looking at a situation where Trump is looking at an exit, but the IRGC with this posturing clearly sending across a message that they are in no mood to back off, and that they would want this war to end only on their terms, which is that a repeat of this kind of military action against Iran should not happen anytime soon. So, in a way, the IRGC, by this statement, sending out a strong message that no messing around again with Iran of the kind that they have seen in the recent past.
Right, of course, Abhishek, we have seen Donald Trump is now desperate. He's realized the sort of mess he's landed the US forces in, win this war, and he's looking for some respectable exit, some off-ramp where he could respectably exit from this conflict. While on the other side, Iran has made it clear that the war will end on their terms and conditions. They did not start the conflict, but when it comes to the end, they will be deciding the conditions. Now, we have seen such statements coming in from the top leadership as well, where they say that they will make US and Israel regret their actions, and regret that they started this war with Iran. So certainly Iran has emerged more resilient in this conflict, and at this stage, if IRGC in fact has taken control of the government, we could see more escalation, and the balance seems to be now tipping in favor of Iran at this point, with a potential control now going to IRGC from Iran's top leadership, and also raises questions now about the negotiation. Now, Trump has said that the first regime is dead, a second regime is dead, and he's been dealing with the third regime in Iran. Now, the question is, who is the third regime in Iran? Is it the top leadership, including President Masoud Pezeshkian, as well as Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, or is it the IRGC leadership that he has been dealing with? And now also the question of who is going to be leading the talks from the Iranian side if IRGC has taken control of the government.
Okay, I have Major A.K. Sivach joining us on this broadcast. Thank you so much, and good afternoon, General Sivach, for joining us. My question is, these reports not only say that IRGC is in control, they also suggest that somewhere the Pezeshkian government or the government of President Pezeshkian is compromised. It's hemmed in. It has its hands tied. Is that a message to the United States, you think, that they are talking to the wrong side? If they are talking to Araghchi, if they are talking to Pezeshkian, if they are talking to Ghalibaf, they are not the right people. They should be talking to the IRGC directly?
Hello? Can you
yes, Sivach, please, I'm getting you. Go ahead.
Yeah, see, no deny the fact what's happening is that the mosaic system of defense which Iran has is that it has got fourth tier of basically shift of power. So when the top leader was killed, you find Mustafa Khamenei coming, and as the top leaders have been killed, political and military leaders, now the IRGC is controlling the whole thing. Now those who have replaced them, it is basically that the power is now centered in IRGC and their power. It is very correct to say the President Masoud Pezeshkian or Foreign Minister Abbas Aragachi, which are considered to be a moderate leader, they are insignificant. They do not have power today. It is the IRGC which is calling the shot, and they are more radical. And therefore, the chances of any compromise now or negotiation taking place and becoming successful are very, very less, because Iran is now in total control of IRGC. And as what we can see on ground, Iran has surprised everyone by the resilience which they have shown. I think US as well as Israel has gone wrong in underestimating the capability of Iran and also the resilience. Imagine that Iran has also displayed that they have a missile which can go up to Digogres about 4,000 kilometers, and the quality and the quantity of missiles and rockets and drones are almost about 50% still left with them. So therefore, they don't deny the fact. There are three things stand out very clearly. As on today, the power is completely in the radical elements, IRGC. The second thing is Iran has a capacity to fight it for a long war. And third thing is that they have surprised the whole world by the capability they have shown and the way they have made this war into asymmetric warfare by blocking the Strait of Hormuz and also striking the basis of US in Middle East, and the collateral damage which is taking place to these countries has made a tremendous impact.
All right, thank you so much, Jan Sivach, for joining us with that perspective on the situation in Tehran and the suggestion that there is a power tussle going on and the IRGC has prevailed like they were supposed to. But in this process, have they sent across a message to the United States that all these back-channel talks happening between them and between some leaders in Tehran, which includes Pezeshkian, which includes Arakchi, which includes Ghalibaf, they might not lead the United States in any particular direction. With that, I believe we move on.
प्योर सूजी पास्ता उबालो मिलाओ और खाओ
8 मिनट में तैयार।
क्या टेस्ट है सबका राजा आर प्योर मसाला।
चमकी चाट से क्या बना है?
सैंडविच लस्सी और छाछ और
हर घूंट में चमकी चाट ड्राई फ्रूट और दही बड़े।
चमकी चाट से स्वाद बढ़े।
असली स्वाद सिर्फ चमकी चाट।
हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें हर चुनौती के लिए तैयार रहना ही होगा। जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं। आदरणीय सभापति जी, ये संकट अलग प्रकार का है और इसके समाधान भी
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद, यही तो है इसकी खास बात। वाओ मामा, क्या स्वाद है। अरे मेरे राजा, सबका राजा आर प्योर मसाला।
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे। केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
आर प्योर शाही पनीर मसाला, डिलीशियस, हेल्दी एवरीडे।
हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें हर चुनौती के लिए तैयार रहना ही होगा। जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं। आदरणीय सभापति जी, ये संकट अलग प्रकार का है और इसके समाधान भी अलग प्रकार से ही तय किए जा रहे हैं। हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। आदरणीय सभापति जी, जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं। इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें हर चुनौती के लिए तैयार रहना ही होगा। इस युद्ध के दुष्प्रभाव लंबे समय तक रहने की प्रबल आशंका है, लेकिन मैं देशवासियों को भरोसा देता हूं, सरकार
All right, viewers, beginning with the breaking news coming in. Pakistan-Afghanistan talks to take place in China. We're looking at some mediation now, in fact, being leveled by China, as Afghanistan and Pakistan are now set to hold their talks in China shortly. So some breakthrough that could come in. The tensions that we have been witnessing between the two neighbors, Pakistan and Afghanistan, now could be resolved as China now plays a host to the talks between the two countries. Now that's a breaking development we're getting from Asia. Big meeting now set to take place between the representatives from Pakistan as well as Afghanistan. The meeting here is being hosted by China, and the meet is set to take place shortly. Now remember, viewers, this comes after months of tensions which have been building up. We have seen strikes and counter-strikes taking place. Civilians have been killed in Afghanistan. Women, children, all have come under attacks by Pakistan. And now some breakthrough on this front, as China is now set to hold a meeting between the representatives of Pakistan and Afghanistan just a short while from now. All right, viewers, also let's bring you what exactly has been happening in Pakistan and Afghanistan so far. Let's take you through all of the strikes and counter strikes that have also taken place. In a short while from now, we'll play some videos for you to show you the extent of strikes which have been exchanged between Pakistan and Afghanistan in the past few months. But right now, the big focus is on the meeting that's set to take place in China shortly between the representatives from Afghanistan as well as Pakistan. Now, China here playing a host, playing a mediator between the two neighbors, Pakistan and Afghanistan. Now, remember, Pakistan continues to level allegations against Afghanistan of harboring a TTP and of trying to inflict terror on its soil, while Afghanistan says it does not provide a safe haven to any terror groups, and there are no attacks being carried out against Pakistan from its soil. Now, those are the visuals on your screen showing you the attacks that have taken place over the past few months. We have seen a hospital, a rehab center was attacked in Afghanistan, and now some breakthrough. All right, Major Samarpal Tuna joins us on this. Major, I want to ask you, a big breakthrough could be anticipated as China here is now playing a host, playing a mediator between Afghanistan and Pakistan, and a meet is expected to take place shortly. How do you read these developments, sir?
Well, this meeting is going to take place at a place called Urumqi in China. And basically, see, China is definitely worried because if this battle prolongs, then probably there are chances that, the terrorism aspect might just cross the border into China. There can be terrorist factions, or could be that the Taliban, groups independent groups then, take safe haven in China if the war prolongs or if it goes out of control, and then there'll be a lot of interference from the Americans and from all the other SAARC and BRICS countries as well. And you see, this war has been going on for quite some while. It's been a stalemate. There has not been anything constructive that has come out of it. And you see, China's vested interests are basically in terms of mining. So that is what China does not want that to get disturbed or their mining operations to get stopped at all, because they've signed a deal regarding the rare earth metals and other important ingredients of mining from the Taliban. So keeping that in mind, they definitely want this to be a peaceful outcome. And other than that, you see, they've already seen a drawback in terms of the CPEC project. So probably a peace brokered by China amongst both of these nations might bring some respite and CPEC project on track. But as of now, I do not see it happening, because you see, Pakistan has been, it has initiated peace talks with Iran, which Iran has refused to take part in. Now Pakistan itself is in deep waters. So I really fail to understand whether Pakistan wants to broker peace for somebody else or, want to broker peace for its own self as well. So Pakistan is definitely in a fix. It cannot afford multiple confrontations that it is already stuck in. So I think it is sheer desperation of Pakistan that it has pressurized China to step in and broker this peace talk. But I certainly do not see anything, any agreement coming soon at the moment, looking at how the scenario is building up in terms of the GCC countries wanting to go to war against Iran, and Pakistan itself will be part of that coalition with the GCC to go into war with Iran.
Right, so I understand that China has a vested interest here, whether it's a mining, whether it's a CPEC corridor. But, the trust deficit between Afghanistan and Pakistan still remains very large, because we have seen time and again, even after ceasefire was declared, Pakistan continued with its attacks, violating the ceasefire agreement. So what do you think will be the major points presented from both the sides at this meeting?
Firstly, I certainly feel it is going to be a ceasefire. And followed by the ceasefire, then they will sit down to discuss regarding the Durand line. But you see, it is a dispute which has been for a prolonged number of years. It's not something that is going to, come to a conclusion or an agreement overnight. It is going to take time. And the main crux is for how long would both the sides have patience enough to tolerate one another's conditions. And if difficult conditions are put in by the Taliban or either by Pakistan, then I do not see it going further with any constructive build-up. It is only going to disintegrate the area further, keeping in mind the multiple disturbances with Iran and Balochistan and then Taliban itself. So Pakistan already has enough on its plate. And I certainly feel that Pakistan will succumb to pressure and will agree to a ceasefire and to all halt to hostilities and fighting at the Durand line against the Taliban. And Taliban will definitely have an upper hand in these negotiations, because they are already in good terms with China, unlike Pakistan, which leaned towards USA and offered them their rare earth metals and mining industry instead to China. So yes, there are a lot of, there are going to be a lot of doubts in terms of Pakistan's intent and whether they are going to live up to what they are going to say, because a trust deficit is definitely what Pakistan is already known for. And keeping that in mind, Pakistan will have to compromise more compared to any other side negotiating.
All right, Somi Chatura, you say a breakthrough should not be expected, at least not anytime soon, out of these talks. Thanks, sir, for joining us on this and giving us your analysis. And now viewers, moving on to developments we're getting from the West Asia. Now Lebanese military says it's moving its forces from its border as IDF continues to push its forces all across the southern Lebanon. Now they are repositioning their troops from the border areas to other areas so that IDF continues with its assault all across the southern Lebanon. Now in a statement that's been released, Lebanese military says troops had to reposition to prevent besieging dispersed military units and cutting them off from support lines. The military has now gradually withdrawn from a handful of border towns, specifically from a Christian majority Remaik and Ain Abil, who have appealed to also indicate it continues to stand now by the people to the best of its ability by maintaining a group of soldiers in those towns. Now that's a statement coming in from Lebanese military as it now withdraws its forces from across the border. Now we have seen IDF continuously pushing its troops all across southern Lebanon, and people from the border areas have been fleeing, and in order to prevent the isolation of one unit of their military, now they are repositioning their troops from the border areas. All right, viewers, now moving on to more developments. Now, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Israel, Gideon Saar, now says we have removed the annihilation threat. He also goes on to say we still have bitter and cruel enemies, but they have been struck thigh against thigh. Now, he also says that we do not promise that this will be the last war, but he goes on that we will need to remain vigilant in the future against the schemes of our enemies. He also says we are committed to preserving this achievement. Now that's the latest statement coming in from Israeli foreign minister, who talks about annihilating their threat, their enemies, while also goes on to say that cannot promise that this will be the last war, but says we will continue to remain vigilant to achieve our military objectives. Now that's the statement coming in from the Israeli foreign minister as he talks about eliminating all the threats that are in fact there in front of Israel. All right, viewers, now US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has justified the war against Iran by stating that it was necessary to prevent Iran from developing a conventional shield of missiles as well as drones that could protect its nuclear program from future intervention. Now, in the latest statement, Rubio also accused Iran of pursuing weapons-grade nuclear material. Take a listen.
The United States has been relentless in its attacks on Iran since the war began a month ago. And now, in an attempt to justify this war, US State Secretary Marco Rubio issued a statement where he once again accused Iran of trying to acquire nuclear weapons.
Iran wants to have nuclear weapons. Of that, there is zero doubt. If what they truly wanted, which is what they claim, is nuclear energy, well, they could have nuclear energy like all the other countries in the world have it. And that is you import the fuel and you build reactors above ground. That's not what Iran has done. They build their reactors and their facilities deep in mountains, away from the public glare. And they want to enrich that material. The same equipment that they could use to enrich material for energy, they could use to quickly enrich it to weapons grade. So it is clear that they've been offered every opportunity to have a nuclear program that allows them to have energy, not weapons, and every single time they have turned it down.
Rubio also commented on the timing of the attack and explained why it had to take place now.
Iran was trying to build a conventional shield, in essence, have so many missiles, have so many drones that no one could attack them, and they were well on their way. We were on the verge of an Iran that had so many missiles and so many drones that no one could do anything about their nuclear weapons program in the future. That was an intolerable risk. Under no circumstances can a country run by radical Shia clerics with an apocalyptic vision of the future.
He stressed that this was the last best chance to destroy the Iranian arsenal.
To eliminate that conventional threat, that conventional shield that they were trying to build, and the president made the right decision to wipe it out now. That is the goal of this operation, to destroy their conventional missiles and their drone program so they can't hide behind it and finally have to deal with the world seriously about never, ever having nuclear weapons.
Meanwhile, Rubio also said that Washington could now see the finish line of the war. The US State Secretary remains confident that the end is coming soon and that messages are being exchanged between Washington and Tehran. He further said that there was a potential for direct meeting between the two nations at some point. However, he also stated that US might have to re-examine its ties with NATO and allied nations. The official Iranian line, on the other hand, is something different. Iran's deputy foreign minister says talks are being held only through intermediaries.
In June, they attacked Iran when we were negotiating, just 1 day or 2 days before the 6th round of negotiation. This time, on 28 February, just 2 days after we negotiated and we agreed to meet again in Vienna for discussing the technical details of a possible agreement. Again, they attacked Iran. So whenever they talk about diplomacy, everyone should approach it with a lot of suspicion. But apart from that, as I said, yes, there has been a communication, messages sent via mediators to Iran. Our position has been very clear. While we are under constant bombardment and missiles, our nation is focused on defending itself.
The world is now well into the 5th week of this war, and United States, while talking of the end game, has already mobilized a massive deployment in the Gulf.
And now, viewers, as the war in West Asia escalates, we are looking at Europe hardening its stance. Now, in the latest, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has clearly made it clear for the NATO as well as for Trump that Iran war is not their war, and therefore the UK will not be dragged into the ongoing conflict. Now, he also said that this does not mean that he's stepping aside, but in fact, he will continue to work in his country's interest. Now, when he was asked about Donald Trump's latest statement about US pulling out of the NATO, the transatlantic military alliance, he also said whatever the noise, he will continue to work for his country's interests. Now, viewers, let's listen in as to what the UK Prime Minister has said on the ongoing war in West Asia as far as his country's stance is concerned.
Let me say once again, this is not our war. We will not be drawn into the conflict. That is not in our national interest. And the most effective way we can support the cost of living in Britain is to push for de-escalation in the Middle East and a reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, which is such a vital route for energy. Let me say once again, this is not our war. We will not be drawn into the conflict. That is not in our national interest. And the most effective way we can support the cost of living in Britain is to push for de-escalation in the Middle East and a reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, which is such a vital route for energy.
Now, viewers, are moving into developments coming from active war zone areas. Now, we're getting some visuals that we will, in fact, show you in just a short while from the aftermath of the attacks that have been carried out inside Tel Aviv. Now, these are latest attacks by Iran using ballistic missiles and cluster munitions that have caused damage all across the Tel Aviv city. Now, on your screen, you can see the aftermath of the latest attack carried out by Iran. You can see how the buildings all across residential areas have been impacted in these latest attacks carried out by Iran using not just ballistic missiles, but also cluster munitions. Right, viewers, and now these are the visuals of the aftermath attack from Tel Aviv, an active war zone area, which shows you how this is, which shows you the impact of the attack carried out by Iran using ballistic missiles and cluster munitions. Now, on your screen, you can see how residential areas have been impacted in Tel Aviv, and also on the ground, you can see forces deployed after the attack has been carried out. Now, it's a residential building in Tel Aviv which has been hit by Iran, and now, in fact, this comes as Iran has been ramping up attacks all across the central region. We are looking at attacks taking place on Jerusalem, Haifa, and this time it's taken on Tel Aviv, Israeli city, getting hit by Iranian missiles. viewers, now moving on to more developments we're getting at this point. Now, the conflict in West Asia rages. Its ripples can now be felt in the Indian aviation sector. Now, citing the Hormuz crisis as one of the major reasons, the government today has now announced a 25% hike in air turbine fuel for domestic routes. Now, with this, passengers will now be bracing for airfare hike, whereas experts are saying a prolonged crisis is not good for the aviation economy. Watch this detailed report about the impact of the aviation sector from the war in West Asia.
The war in West Asia has taken a heavy toll, both on energy infrastructure and supply routes. As a result, energy prices across the world are soaring. And now the Indian aviation sector will also feel the heat from this global crisis. This is because aviation turbine fuel has reached a record high and crossed the 2 lakh rupee mark for the first time. The government announced a 25% hike in air turbine fuel for domestic routes, citing the constraints on Strait of Hormuz as a prominent reason. While domestic routes will face a 25% hike, foreign routes are set to face a full increase in fuel price consistent with global current rates. As the aviation sector takes a hit due to global energy crisis, Republic also spoke to major energy stakeholders.
There are two parts. As far as crude oil is concerned, there is not much of a problem. Yes, there is on the gas part there is a problem. Because a Strait of Hormuz, through a Strait of Hormuz, around 60% of our LNG comes. So our LNG requirement is primarily being met by the volume from the Qatar and Oman that is passing through the Strait of Hormuz. So definitely this war-like situation has created disruptions in the country.
A prolonged energy crisis does not look good for the aviation sector.
The Strait of Hormuz, which has been shut down, India is largely dependent upon that. As far as crude is concerned, around 40 to 50% crude comes from Strait of Hormuz, and therefore the supply line, when it cuts down, then we need to look for alternative sources. And I would say country has done well. The authorities, including Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas and all the oil companies, I must commend IUC, BPC, HPC, that they have looked for the alternative sources. And with these alternative sources, the crude, there has not been any shortage in our refineries.
As per experts, the energy crisis, if continued, can translate into major economic trouble.
Industries have got some other means to do, but we are trying to see that how the situation eases out. The government has been trying its best to see that the domestic production also increases, though it is a very difficult task. At the same time, we are making the source much more. The base of the source has to be widened so that we can, if one source is dying up, which we have seen in the case of Qatar, then we can definitely see other sources like.
With air fuel prices now significantly increasing, passengers are bracing for an imminent hike in airfares. Experts say the aviation industry can face slowdown, even leading to a recession in global economy if this war does not end soon.
And now viewers, on to what's happening in the poll-bound state of Tamil Nadu. Now, Union Minister and BJP Tamil Nadu election in charge of Piyush Goyal and State BJP President Nagendran has released a charge sheet against the DMK government. Now, this comes ahead of the crucial assembly polls that are now due in Tamil Nadu. Take a look at this report.
In Chennai, BJP has stepped up its poll offensive ahead of the Tamil Nadu Assembly elections, with Union Minister Piyush Goyal and State BJP Chief Nagendran releasing a charge sheet against the DMK government. Senior leaders, including Tamilisai Soundarajan and K. Annamalai, were also present. Nagendran asserted that the NDA alliance is fully finalized, while also expressing confidence of forming the next government in the state.
We are very ready to face that election. We are winning the coming assembly general election.
Plan to swap the assembly constituencies with ADMK because we hear in social media that
the social media, all the social media told you think that true things. It's not true, but speculation is there.
So everything is finalized now.
Everything finalized. We are going to face the election and winning the election. Our India government will be formed.
On Annamalai's electoral plans, he maintained, the decision rests with the leader himself, keeping suspense alive over his candidature.
So there's a lot of speculation that Annamalai sir is upset with this.
Now he is with us.
So is there any chances that he would be contesting the elections?
Who?
Annamalai.
He himself decided that if you want to contest, that will be.
And now, viewers, coming up on the other side, EC orders suspension and probe against a BDO in West Bengal's Nadia district following violence at the pole training venue.
प्योर सूजी पास्ता उबालो मिलाओ और खाओ
8 मिनट में तैयार।
क्या टेस्ट है सबका राजा आर प्योर मसाला। केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल बोलो जुबान केसरी।
आर प्योर सूजी पास्ता उबालो मिलाओ और खाओ
8 मिनट में तैयार।
क्या टेस्ट है सबका राजा आर प्योर मसाला।
हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। इसलिए
प्यास बुझाए ठंडक लाए सबको भाए जीरा से MTH का जलजीरा जीरा से।
जीरा से असली रिफ्रेशिंग, असली स्वाद, असली मजा।
MTH।
Corrector, the taste of success.
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद यही तो है इसकी खास बात। वाओ मामा क्या स्वाद है। अरे मेरे राजा मसाला।
हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें हर चुनौती के लिए तैयार रहना ही होगा। जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं। आदरणीय सभापति जी, ये संकट अलग प्रकार का है और इसके समाधान भी।
आर प्योर शाही पनीर मसाला, डिलीशियस, हेल्दी एवरी डे।
हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें हर चुनौती के लिए तैयार रहना ही होगा। जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं। आदरणीय सभापति जी, ये संकट अलग प्रकार का है और इसके समाधान भी अलग प्रकार से ही तय किए जा रहे हैं। हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। आदरणीय सभापति जी, जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं, इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें
चमकी चाट से क्या बना है?
सैंडविच, लस्सी और छाछ और
हर घूंट में चमकी चाट। अब बताओ, स्वाद आया? आया।
असली स्वाद सिर्फ चमकी चाट।
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे। केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
आर प्योर सूजी पास्ता, उबालो, मिलाओ और खाओ।
8 मिनट में तैयार।
क्या टेस्ट है, सबका राजा आर प्योर मसाला।
हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें हर चुनौती के लिए तैयार रहना ही होगा। जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं। आदरणीय सभापति जी, ये संकट अलग प्रकार का है और इसके समाधान भी अलग प्रकार से ही तय किए जा रहे हैं। हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। आदरणीय सभापति जी, जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं, इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें हर चुनौती के लिए तैयार रहना ही होगा। इस युद्ध के दुष्प्रभाव लंबे समय तक रहने की प्रबल आशंका है, लेकिन मैं देशवासियों को भरोसा देता हूं, सरकार सतर्क है, तत्पर है और पूरी गंभीरता से रणनीति बना रही है, हर निर्णय ले रही है। देश की जनता का हित हमारे लिए सर्वोपरि है।
These talks go well and you reach a ceasefire agreement with Iran.
From Asia's largest news headquarters, setting the agenda for Bharat. You're watching Republic.
Hello and welcome. You're watching live and breaking at 5 p.m. with me, Shavan. Said a top focus at this which way is it really headed? President Trump says deal or no deal, they are going to come out of Iran. That's the top focus at this hour. But up first, let me take you through the headlines we're tracking at this hour. Iranian media reports IRGC assumes control over government. Reports claim conflict between IRGC and current Iranian government. Trump hits at NATO exit, says he has always doubted NATO's credibility. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer says this is not our war, will not fight. Starmer announces meeting nations on Strait of Hormuz. Taliban delegation heads to Beijing. China hosts Pakistan-Afghanistan talks. Government announces 25% hike in air turbine fuel for domestic routes. Foreign flight routes to face a full increase as passengers brace for airfare hike. Prime Minister Narendra Modi set to chair a Cabinet Committee on Security meeting this evening. Anil Ambani in big trouble. Central Bureau of Investigation registers FIR based on complaint filed by LIC. As the conflict in West Asia basically rages on, its ripple effects are essentially being felt even here in India, particularly the Indian aviation sector, which has taken a massive hit, citing the Hormuz crisis as one of the major reasons. The government, in fact, today announced a 25% hike in air turbine fuel for domestic routes. Now, with this, passengers now are essentially bracing for airfare hike, whereas experts are essentially saying a prolonged crisis is certainly not good for the aviation economy. And not just this, while domestic LPG prices remain consistent, a major hike was also announced for commercial LPG cylinders. On your screens right now, a difference between what was the price earlier and what is it now. And the aviation fuel hike that we are essentially looking at, and the government essentially indicating that this is basically done in a staggered manner so that the impact isn't really felt. In fact, what we have essentially seen with the government making an announcement with regards to what they believe the ATF prices in India were essentially deregulated back in 2001, and they were essentially being revised on a monthly basis that was based on a formula of international benchmarks. Let me go across to my colleague Pranav, who's joining us from the digital newsroom. Pranav, it was certainly on the expected lines, but the government essentially is indicating that this has been done in a staggered manner so that the pinch isn't felt to that extent.
Well, Chavan, yes. In fact, the ministry today morning put out a statement saying that the ATF prices in India were deregulated in 2001 and they're revised every month on the basis of a certain formula that takes into consideration the international crude rates. Now, given that there has been a significant turmoil in crude rates thanks to the Iran war, the ongoing conflict, it has finally been decided that it will be increased, but then it has been capped at 25% for domestic routes, and for international routes it will be 100%. So the airlines that are operating on international routes will have to bear the cost of increase of 100% from April 1, and on domestic routes it will be capped at 25%. So yes, it has been passed on, but then with a capping is what we can say right now.
Well, in fact, in terms of the LPG prices too, it was certainly on the expected lines, but the government once again in the inter-ministerial briefing indicating that the LPG reserves are well in stock, and perhaps, it is a cause of concern given the fact that if at all it continues for another couple of weeks, we are going to feel the pinch of it. There is a substantial hike, in fact, that has come in.
Well, absolutely. In fact, LPG commercial prices have been revised, but then as far as domestic LPG is concerned, the government has said that there is not going to be any hike. So here we are seeing an attempt to shield, the end consumer from passing the increase in the oil prices. Just to give you a perspective on it, Brent as well as oil has fallen over the past about 2 days after Donald Trump hinted, but then oil has overall about 50%, increased by about 50% ever since the war began. So we are seeing an input cost increase of about 50%. Now the government has not passed that on to the end consumer in terms of domestic users, but for commercial users as well as for aviation sector, we are seeing some sort of heat being felt right now.
Well, thank you very much, Pranav, for getting us the latest details. Well, in fact, what does this essentially mean for you and I when it comes to taking a flight? In fact, does it mean that there is going to be an immediate price hike as far as airfares are concerned? Or perhaps we're going to see this happening in a staggered manner? Take a look at this detailed report.
The war in West Asia has taken a heavy toll, both on energy infrastructure and supply routes. As a result, energy prices across the world are soaring. And now the Indian aviation sector will also feel the heat from this global crisis. This is because aviation turbine fuel has reached a record high and crossed the 2 lakh rupee mark for the first time. The government announced a 25% hike in air turbine fuel for domestic routes, citing the constraints on Strait of Hormuz as a prominent reason. While domestic routes will face a 25% hike, foreign routes are set to face a full increase in fuel price consistent with global current rates. As the aviation sector takes a hit due to global energy crisis, Republic also spoke to major energy stakeholders.
There are two parts. As far as crude oil is concerned, there is not much of a problem. Yes, there is on the gas part there is a problem because a Strait of Hormuz, through a Strait of Hormuz, around 60% of our LNG comes. So our LNG requirement is primarily being met by the volume from the Qatar and Oman that is passing through the Strait of Hormuz. So definitely this war-like situation has created disruptions in the country.
A prolonged energy crisis does not look good for the aviation sector.
The Strait of Hormuz, which has been shut down, India is largely dependent upon that. As far as crude is concerned, around 40 to 50% crude comes from Strait of Hormuz, and therefore the supply line, when it cuts down, then we need to look for alternative sources. And I would say country has done well. The authorities, including Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas and all the oil companies, I must commend IUC, BPC, HPC, that they have looked for the alternative sources. And with these alternative sources, the crude, there has not been any shortage in our refineries.
As per experts, the energy crisis, if continued, can translate into major economic trouble.
Industries have got some other means to do, but we are trying to see that how the situation eases out. The government has been trying its best to see that the domestic production also increases, though it is a very difficult task. At the same time, we are making the source much more. The base of the source has to be widened so that we can, if one source is dying up, which we have seen in the case of Qatar, then we can definitely see other sources like.
With air fuel prices now significantly increasing, passengers are bracing for an imminent hike in airfares. Experts say the aviation industry can face slowdown, even leading to a recession in global economy if this war does not end soon.
Iranian parliamentary leader has essentially once again made the position of Strait of Hormuz extremely clear. The head of Iran's National Security Commission has said that Strait of Hormuz will be opened, but not essentially for their enemies. In fact, indicating that as far as United States of America and Israel are concerned, vessels essentially would not be passing through Strait of Hormuz. And this is a strategic decision that has been taken during wartime. In fact, indicating that allies and friends of Iran would be given a free pass as far as Strait of Hormuz is concerned. But when it comes to vessels coming in from US and Israel, would essentially be blocked further. In fact, Gulf nations have heavily criticized this decision of the Iranians, saying that in a free navigational world, these decisions perhaps goes against international laws. But having said that, Iranians have made it abundantly clear that these are wartime decisions that have been taken. And in fact, they have been left with no other choice but to respond in the manner that they have so far. In fact, another breaking news now coming in. There appears to be a rift between the IRGC and the Iranian government. IRGC, in fact, has taken de facto control of the government. Now, this is coming in from Iranian media. IRGC has assumed control over the government functioning. In fact, they've blocked presidential appointments and decisions. This comes at a time, I believe there is also a report that has been put out by the Iranian media with regards to the fact that what we are given to understand that the decision was taken after some reports of the Iranian president appointing a new intelligence minister was basically blocked by the IRGC. Now, it is perhaps well known within power corridors that perhaps the Iranian president happens to be a lame duck president right now, given the fact that there are very limited powers that he has. Let me go across to my colleague Ishita, who's joining us on this broadcast. Ishita, it appears that the Iranian president was making a fresh appointment of the intelligence minister. The previous intelligence minister was eliminated, and I'm given to understand the Iranian media is essentially indicating that that appointment was blocked by the IRGC.
Right, of course, there's a rift that's now growing between IRGC and President Masoud Pezeshkian. This was visible in the appointment of the intelligence minister. Now, last week, President is the one who has the authority to appoint an intelligence minister, but this video was, in fact, blocked by IRGC. Now, we're looking not just that, in fact, other presidential appointments and decisions are also being blocked by IRGC, and there's a military council comprising of senior IRGC commanders, which has now effectively taken control of all the decisions that are being taken by Iran during this time. Now, IRGC is clear that it's wartime, and therefore it's the militia leaders which should be in a charge rather than a president, and therefore President Masoud Pezeshkian, who's been also trying to meet with the Mojtaba Khamenei, the supreme leader now, his appointments has been blocked. He's not been allowed to meet the leader, and with the fate, of course, of Mojtaba Khamenei also unclear, it does look like that IRGC has effectively now gained control over the leadership of Iran. Now, we have seen the IRGC, of course, are taking decisions ever since the war started, but now the rift is out in the open, and it's very explicit that it is IRGC in Iran which is calling the shots and not President Masoud Pezeshkian or any other top leadership from the executive structure.
One quick question, Ishita, before I let you go, because I'm told that there is also another breaking news now coming in with regards to NATO's first response on what was seen as a threat coming in from Donald Trump. But just a quick question with regards to the IRGC press briefing that has happened a short while back. Are they also making a mention of the fact that some of those posts that are now lying vacant after their leaders have been eliminated, for instance, the defense minister, are they making any indication as to who exactly will be making those decisions now? Will it be essentially the supreme leader, or would that be the IRGC?
Of Iran, which is followed in the country, it is the supreme authority, the supreme leader, which is Mojtaba Khamenei, who's set to take these decisions. It is a president's approval. He basically takes approval from the supreme leader. But right now, IRGC has made it clear that in these war times, in the times of crisis, IRGC will be taking all the calls with regards to the appointments of the new ministers, all the replacements that have now to be named in. It is the IRGC which is saying it will be taking all the calls.
Well, thank you very much, Ishita, for getting us the latest details. Well, in fact, let me also take you through another breaking news now coming in, where the Iranians have once again put out a full video of missiles that have been launched, in fact, evading the air defense in Israel, hitting a US base in West Asia is what we are being told. We'll try and put out that video that has just come in a short while back, with the Iranian media essentially quoting the IRGC, saying that this is a fresh wave of strikes that have been carried out. This amidst talks that are essentially going on, whether at all there is a mediation between Iran and others. In fact, Iran's foreign minister, in an interview to a Western media outlet, has indicated that while he's getting direct messages from Steve Witkoff, but not essentially a direct negotiation between Iran and United States of America. And that perhaps explains why the strikes still continue. In fact, it seems that some energy infrastructure was also being targeted. That's the latest now coming in. Let's go full frame with these images that have now come in of Iran hitting a US base. effectively Iran maintaining that they are not going to stop the strikes. And when it comes to the United States of America, that is essentially going to continue. And they believe that their enemies, which is America and Israel, would still be the target. Well, shifting focus now to some election news coming in from Tamil Nadu. In fact, a short while back, my colleague Sharda spoke to Udayanidhi Stalin, who has now been one of the main campaign faces of the party. In fact, a short while back, speaking to my colleague Sharda, he's essentially taken on EPS. In fact, he says that he's sorry to EPS if he feels he has badmouthed him anyway. In fact, Udayanidhi is going to be filing his nominations tomorrow. And once again, on the question of freebies, he's saying that these are not freebies, these are welfare schemes that have been taken out by the government. An exclusive coming in from Chennai.
Sir, you started your campaign. It's been 3 days. How has the response been?
The response is very good. We are very, very positive. I have almost finished around 12 constituencies. Everywhere I'm going, I'm seeing women voters gathering and showing their support, women and youngsters. And we are very confident of a landslide victory.
So with the manifesto coming out, there's always the IRGC and BJP constantly pointing out that these welfare schemes are only increasing the debt of the government, and it's no more a welfare scheme, no more a freebie scheme, is no more attractive.
No, the people of Tamil Nadu will decide. We have given promises, we have kept our promises. So people of Tamil Nadu are very confident. Whoever can, anybody can give promises, but only our leader, only DMK has always been in the habit of fulfilling the promises. So people believe in whatever our leader says.
So also taking into consideration, Edapadi Palaniswamy has recently alleged that you've been bad-mouthing him. You're also criticizing him for his...
Please tell me, no, can you please point out one incident where I have bad-mouthed? If I have bad-mouthed, I'm saying my sorry to him. I have never bad-mouthed about any leader in that case.
So one last question also, sir. Right now your campaign started, and most of the time you've been pointing out that the fight is against the India and Tamil Nadu. Is your ideological enemy, though being BJP, is this election fight between AIADMK or DMK or DMK versus BJP?
No, this is a fight between Tamil Nadu and Delhi. Tamil Nadu team versus Delhi team. Because Delhi is trying to take control of Tamil Nadu like all the other states. But they have continuously failed in that agenda. Yes, definitely this is an ideological war, and definitely people of Tamil Nadu, our Tamil ideology, our Dravidian ideology will win.
So when will you bring your nominations?
I'm planning to do it tomorrow morning.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sir, you started your campaign. It's been 3 days. How has the response been?
The response is very good. We are very, very positive. I have almost finished around 12 constituencies. Everywhere I'm going, I'm seeing women voters gathering and showing their support, women and youngsters. And we are very confident of a landslide victory.
So with the manifesto coming out, there's always the IRGC and BJP constantly pointing out that these welfare schemes are only increasing the debt of the government, and it's no more a welfare scheme, no more a freebie scheme, is no more attractive.
No, the people of Tamil Nadu will decide. We have given promises, we have kept our promises. So people of Tamil Nadu are very confident. Whoever can, anybody can give promises, but only our leader, only DMK has always been in the habit of fulfilling the promises. So people believe in whatever our leader says.
So also taking into consideration, Edapadi Palaniswamy has recently alleged that you've been bad-mouthing him. You're also criticizing him for his...
Please tell me, no, can you please point out one incident where I have bad-mouthed? If I have bad-mouthed, I'm saying my sorry to him. I have never bad-mouthed about any leader in that case.
So one last question also, sir. Right now your campaign started, and most of the time you've been pointing out that the fight is against the India and Tamil Nadu. Is your ideological enemy, though being BJP, is this election fight between AIADMK or DMK or DMK versus BJP?
No, this is a fight between Tamil Nadu and Delhi. Tamil Nadu team versus Delhi team. Because Delhi is trying to take control of Tamil Nadu like all the other states. But they have continuously failed in that agenda. Yes, definitely this is an ideological war, and definitely people of Tamil Nadu, our Tamil ideology, our Dravidian ideology will win.
So when will you bring your nominations?
I'm planning to do it tomorrow morning.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Union Minister and BJP Tamil Nadu election in charge Piyush Goyal and State BJP President Nayanar has essentially released what they're calling a charge sheet, that too against the DMK government for the upcoming Tamil Nadu Assembly polls. Take a look at this report.
In Chennai, BJP has stepped up its poll offensive ahead of the Tamil Nadu Assembly elections, with Union Minister Piyush Goyal and State BJP Chief Nana Nagendran releasing a charge sheet against the DMK government. Senior leaders, including Tamilisai Soundarajan and K. Annamalai, were also present. Nagendran asserted that the NDA alliance is fully finalized, while also expressing confidence of forming the next government in the state.
We are very ready to face that election. We are winning the coming Assembly general election.
Plan to swap the Assembly constituencies with ADMK, because we hear in social media that
the social media, all the social media told you think that true things. It's not true, but speculation is there.
So everything is finalized now.
Everything finalized. We are going to face the election, and winning the election, our India government will be formed.
On Annamalai's electoral plans, he maintained the decision rests with the leader himself, keeping suspense alive over his candidature.
So there's a lot of speculation that Annamalai sir is upset with this.
Now he is with us.
So is there any chances that he would be contesting the elections?
Who?
Annamalai.
He himself decided that if you want to contest, that will be.
For the first time in 50 years, we see yet again astronauts landing in moon. The moon mission of NASA Artemis second launch pad images that are now on your screens. NASA's Artemis 2 mission will be taking the crew further than humans have ever ventured in space before. In fact, these are the latest images now coming in from the launch pad. In fact, we are given to understand that this is NASA's 4-part lunar exploration program. In fact, it was essentially planned that between 1st of April and 6th of April where the launch is going to take place. But in fact, at last moment, there have been certain changes after liquid hydrogen leak was reported during a practice launch, and essentially forcing the agency to delay the operation. And the space agency is now basically aiming for a launch window of about 1st to 6th of April.
Says he's thinking of pulling out of NATO. This after NATO members refused to join his war against Iran, clearly stating that this is not their conflict. Now the big question, will the military transatlantic alliance stand the test of time, or will it crumble under the weight of West Asia war? Catch all that with me, Ishita Mitra, on 6 Stories at 6 today.
चमकी चाट से क्या बना है?
आलू चाट या फ्रूट चाट,
स्वाद बनाए चमकी चाट।
क्या बात है? स्वादिष्ट पकोड़े और परेशान, अरे चमकी चाट है इसकी जान।
असली स्वाद सिर्फ चमकी चाट।
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद, यही तो है इसकी खास बात। वाओ मामा, क्या स्वाद है? अरे मेरे राजा, मसाला।
हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें हर चुनौती के लिए तैयार रहना ही होगा। जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं। आदरणीय सभापति जी, ये संकट अलग प्रकार का है और इसके समाधान भी अलग प्रकार से ही तय किए जा रहे हैं। हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। आदरणीय सभापति जी, जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं, इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें हर चुनौती के लिए तैयार रहना ही होगा। इस युद्ध के दुष्प्रभाव लंबे समय तक रहने की प्रबल आशंका है, लेकिन मैं देशवासियों को भरोसा देता हूं, सरकार सतर्क है, तत्पर है और पूरी गंभीरता से रणनीति बना रही है, हर निर्णय ले रही है। देश की जनता का हित हमारे लिए सर्वोपरि है।
A very good evening. You're watching Live and Breaking. I'm Rakshita Mishra with you. Let's get started with the top story that we're tracking for you. Iranian media reports suggest that the IRGC has taken de facto control of Iran. Reports claim there's a conflict between IRGC and current Iranian government. So IRGC assuming control over the government. Trump hints at NATO exit, says he has always doubted NATO's credibility, calls it a paper tiger. Not our war, says UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, and that they will not fight this war. Starmer announces meeting nations on the Strait of Hormuz crisis. Taliban delegation heads to Beijing. China hosts Pakistan-Afghanistan talks. Government announced a 25% hike in air turbine fuel, that is jet fuel, for domestic routes. Foreign flights routes to face a full increase as passengers brace for the hike. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to chair a cabinet committee meeting on security this evening. And Anil Ambani in big trouble. CBI registers an FIR now based on complaint filed by the LIC. All right, breaking news coming in. Iranian army conducts retaliatory drone strikes targeting American AWACS and aerial refueling aircraft stationed at US bases in the region. This is the visual that has been released by Iran, and there are retaliatory strikes that have been conducted via drones targeting the American AWACS and, of course, the refueling aircraft station, trying to target the air power of America, radars, refueling, everything on target of. And just 3 days back too, Iran had claimed of striking US AWACS aircraft in Saudi Arabia as well. The key E-3 AWACS were damaged in Iranian attack in Saudi airbase earlier. And we have some more breaking news continuing. We have more important updates coming in fact, viewers. So amid all this, Donald Trump is not getting any support from the NATO allies. And so frustrated is Trump that he has gone on to now call the NATO a paper tiger. And also saying that he's considering exiting the NATO now. Take a look. We'll just play that out, what Donald Trump has said Just read that out. He's saying that US strongly considering NATO exit. I was never swayed by the NATO anyway. Allies failed to back US military action. And we've seen, viewers, that the NATO has not been with Donald Trump in this war that US and Israel have started. Now, Trump says that they always doubted NATO's credibility. In fact, even Keir Starmer today said, while UK allows the air bases to be used, Starmer says that we are not, this is not our war. So there you have the frustration that is only now on a boil as far as Trump is concerned. So let me just play out what Keir Starmer has said, viewers. So we've seen that how Keir Starmer has made it very, very clear that this is not in the UK's national interest. We'll just play that out, what Keir Starmer has said. He has declared that the war in West Asia is not UK's war and that UK will not be dragged into it. I've said it, I've said it. Play that out. Let's play that bite out of Keir Starmer.
NATO is the single most effective military alliance the world has ever seen. And it has kept us safe for many decades, and we are fully committed to NATO. Secondly, that whatever the pressure on me and others, whatever the noise, I'm going to act in the British national interest in all the decisions that I make. And that's why I've been absolutely clear that this is not our war, and we're not going to get dragged into it. But I'm equally clear that when it comes to defence and security and our economic future, we have to have closer ties with Europe.
We have now France also reacting. In fact, the French Army's junior minister, France junior minister, says that Trump, France has once again basically snubbed Trump on this, saying that NATO is a military alliance on Euro-Atlantic area. And they've said that it will not carry out operation in Strait of Hormuz that does not respect international law. So there you have the French minister very clearly saying that that this is a war that does not really concern the Euro-Atlantic area and NATO functions over there, plus that it will not carry out operations in situations where there is no respect for international law. Trump has been time and again urging these countries to go to the Strait of Hormuz and just get it moving, get the ships moving, bring their warships, but he has no takers. And now you have France also saying that there's no point in this. And that this is something that does not even, very importantly as mentioned, does not respect international law. Meanwhile, viewers, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has justified the war against Iran by stating it was necessary to prevent Tehran from developing a conventional shield of missiles. Now, they're talking about conventional shields. For some reason, they've not talked about nuclear. And they're also saying that they want to prevent Iran from making drones that could protect its nuclear program from intervention. Now, in his latest statement, Rubio also accused Iran of producing weapons grade, that are nuclear grade. The material that is being used is of nuclear grade. Take a look.
The United States has been relentless in its attacks on Iran since the war began a month ago. And now, in an attempt to justify this war, US State Secretary Marco Rubio issued a statement where he once again accused Iran of trying to acquire nuclear weapons.
Iran wants to have nuclear weapons. Of that, there is zero doubt. If what they truly wanted, which is what they claim, is nuclear energy, well, they could have nuclear energy like all the other countries in the world have it, and that is you import the fuel and you build reactors above ground. That's not what Iran has done. They build their reactors and their facilities deep in mountains, away from the public glare, and they want to enrich that material. The same equipment that they could use to enrich material for energy, they could use to quickly enrich it to weapons grade. So it is clear that they've been offered every opportunity to have a nuclear program that allows them to have energy, not weapons, and every single time they have turned it down.
Rubio also commented on the timing of the attack and explained why it had to take place now.
Iran was trying to build a conventional shield, in essence, have so many missiles, have so many drones that no one could attack them, and they were well on their way. We were on the verge of an Iran that had so many missiles and so many drones that no one could do anything about their nuclear weapons program in the future. That was an intolerable risk. Under no circumstances can a country run by radical Shia clerics with an apocalyptic vision of the future.
He stressed that this was the last best chance to destroy the Iranian arsenal.
To eliminate that conventional threat, that conventional shield that they were trying to build, and the president made the right decision to wipe it out now. That is the goal of this operation, to destroy their conventional missiles and their drone program so they can't hide behind it and finally have to deal with the world seriously about never, ever having nuclear weapons.
Meanwhile, Rubio also said that Washington could now see the finish line of the war. The US State Secretary remains confident that the end is coming soon and that messages are being exchanged between Washington and Tehran. He further said that there was a potential for direct meeting between the two nations at some point. However, he also stated that US might have to re-examine its ties with NATO and allied nations. The official Iranian line, on the other hand, is something different. Iran's deputy foreign minister says talks are being held only through intermediaries.
In June, they attacked Iran when we were negotiating, just 1 day or 2 days before the 6th round of negotiation. This time, on 28 February, just 2 days after we negotiated and we agreed to meet again in Vienna for discussing the technical details of a possible agreement. Again, they attacked Iran. So whenever they talk about diplomacy, everyone should approach it with a lot of suspicion. But apart from that, as I said, yes, there has been a communication, messages sent via mediators to Iran. Our position has been very clear. While we are under constant bombardment and missiles, our nation is focused on defending itself.
The world is now well into the 5th week of this war, and United States, while talking of the end game, has already mobilized a massive deployment in the Gulf.
All right, we have breaking news coming in right now. And the drone attack has hit northern Iraq's fuel warehouse that is linked to British oil and natural gas giant BP. Now, it's a multi-drone attack that's been reported, and it has hit the fuel warehouse that's linked to British oil and natural gas giant BP. It's in northern Iraq, and it's a firm operating the facility, and no casualties have been reported so far. The attack on the motor oil warehouse occurred in Erbil. That's the capital city of Iraq's semi-autonomous Kurdish region, the Sardar Group, a major automotive group in Iraq, and the facility is owned by Castrol. That's a subsidiary of BP. So this statement that comes in, it suggests that the first drone hit the facility before it was attacked again with in fact, 2 more drones. So there have been multiple drone attacks. Firefighters combating the fire, but the attack started a massive fire that sent a column of black smoke into the air, according to footage that is circulating on social media. I'm playing that out right now. That's video from Erbil in northern Iraq's Kurdish region, and no casualties reported so far, but you can see the thick black plume of smoke that suggests that it's an old facility that has been hit. And it's a big one. It's owned by Castrol, subsidiary of the British giant BP. And viewers, meanwhile, Israel's aggressive bombardment against Hezbollah in Beirut continues. Defense Minister of Israel, Katz, has threatened to destroy all houses along the southern Lebanon border and the nearby villages. Now, Israel has warned that it will destroy all the houses in the Lebanese villages, and 600,000 people who fled the south will not be able to return home until northern Israel is secure. In fact, Katz went on to say that Israeli troops would stay in that area seized during its invasion. Take a look at this ground report.
Israel is trying to push Hezbollah militants out of southern Lebanon. But Hezbollah continues to resist, firing rockets across the border into Israel. And now, Israel's defense minister says the campaign could morph into a prolonged occupation along the southern parts of Lebanon.
בסיומה של הפעולה, צה"ל התייצב במרחב ביטחון בתוך לבנון, בקו הגנה מול טילי הנ"ט, וישלוט ביטחונית בכל המרחב עד הליטני, כולל גשרי הליטני שנשארו, תוך חיסול כוחות רדואן שחדרו למרחב והשמדת כל אמצעי הלחימה שנמצאים שם. בנוסף, תאסר באופן מוחלט חזרתם דרומית לליטני, שלמעלה מ-600,000 תושבי דרום לבנון שהתפנו צפונה עד שיובטח ביטחונם ושלומם של תושבי הצפון.
Israel wants to take control of approximately 30 kilometers of land north of the Israeli-Lebanon border. Defense Minister Katz also said that villages along the region would be evacuated.
כל הבתים בכפרים סמוכי הגבול בלבנון יהרסו, בהתאם למודל רפיח ובית חנון בעזה, כדי להסיר אחת ולתמיד את האיומים סמוכי הגבול מעל תושבי הצפון.
Meanwhile, the ongoing Israeli operation inside Lebanon is exacting a heavy toll. The Israeli representative to the United Nations Security Council said that the death of 3 UN peacekeepers in the region were due to an explosive set-off by the Hezbollah.
אנחנו נחושים להפריד את לבנון מזירת איראן ולעקור את שיני הנחש ולהסיר מהחיזבאללה את יכולת האיום ולשנות אחת ולתמיד את המצב בלבנון עם נוכחות ביטחונית של צה"ל במקומות נדרשים תוך אכיפה קפדנית והרתעה מוחלטת. בדיוק כמו בסוריה ובעזה, כך גם בלבנון.
The war inside Lebanon is also exacting a toll on the IDF. 4 IDF soldiers were killed and 2 others were injured. Citizens are paying the price for the Israeli invasion into Lebanon. As per reports, more than 12 lakh people have been displaced from Lebanon since the outbreak of the war, and the number is only expected to rise further.
Right, we have breaking news coming in right now. So the Lebanese army says its forces have largely withdrawn from some border towns as Israeli troops continue to push through southern Lebanon in their ground operations, in its ground offensive. It said in a statement, the Lebanese military said that troops had to reposition to prevent besieging dispersed military units and cutting them off from support lines. Military gradually withdrawn from a handful of border towns, notably the remaining residents of Christian majority areas who have appealed to the Lebanese military to stay. In fact, the Lebanese military says that it continues to stand by the people to the best of its ability, maintaining a group of soldiers in those towns. So you see the movement in southern Lebanon, and Israel had declared the southern Lebanon up until the Litani River will be a security zone now, and its ongoing war with the Hezbollah, and residents will not be able to return until further notice. And we was in amidst all this, over 1 million people in Lebanon have been displaced over the past month. So there's a crisis, of course, unfolding in Lebanon as well. And Lebanese military says it has withdrawn from some towns along the border, with the Israeli forces advancing in their ground operation. So we'll just try and show you more updates that are coming in from West Asia viewers. The situation is dire as far as southern Lebanon is concerned. There are, of course, experts also say that this is going to be sort of a Gaza-like situation that we are looking at right now. They're trying to make a buffer zone there, just like the one in Gaza, and that has, of course, created this movement of the Lebanese forces as well, that has led to the forces being, what Lebanese army says, being repositioned. And in fact, viewers, we'll also tell you now what Israeli Prime Minister is saying. Netanyahu claims that the joint Israel-US military operation against Iran has systematically crushed Iran and left its military capabilities considerably weakened. There's more in this report.
marking the 1-month anniversary of the joint US-Israeli operation against Iran. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israeli forces had been systematically crushing the Tehran regime.
במלאת חודש למערכה המשותפת שלנו ולארצות הברית, אנחנו קודשים בשיטתיות את משטר האימים שקרה במשך עשרות שנים, מוות לאמריקה, מוות לישראל.
Netanyahu said Iran still had a limited launch capability to threaten Israel but could no longer threaten its existence.
שברנו את כוחם של צבאות הטרור של איראן שהקיפו אותנו בטבעת חנק. זה נכון, יש להם עדיין יכולת שיורית לאיים עלינו, אבל הם כבר אינם יכולים לאיים על קיומנו, לשגר רבבות טילים בליסטיים ורקטות שנועדו להחריב את ערי ישראל.
Netanyahu praised a decooperation with the US and said he hoped to soon be able to speak about new alliances in the region.
לפני המבצעים נלחמנו לבד נגד איראן. היום אנחנו נלחמים כתף אל כתף עם ארצות הברית, בשיתוף פעולה היסטורי חסר תקדים בין הנשיא טראמפ לביני ובין צבא ארצות הברית וצבא הגנה לישראל. לא רק שחיזקנו את הברית עם ארצות הברית, אנחנו גם יוצרים בריתות חדשות עם מדינות חשובות באזור נגד האיום האיראני המשותף, ואני מקווה שבקרוב, אזרחי ישראל, אני אוכל לספר לכם יותר על הבריתות החשובות האלה.
The Israeli Prime Minister further asserted buffer zones beyond Israeli borders were established to keep off invasions.
ביססנו רצועות ביטחון עמוק מעבר לגבולותינו. בעזה, למעלה ממחצית שטח הרצועה. בסוריה, מכתר החרמון ועד הירמוך. ובלבנון, באזור חיץ נרחב שמסכל את איום הפלישה ומרחיק את איום ירי טילי הנ"ט על יישובינו.
Netanyahu asserted Iran has been launching fewer missiles now than at the start of the war, but continues to deploy more low-lying drones that are harder to intercept. The conflict has killed more than 3,000 people in the region, and millions have been displaced in Lebanon and Iran.
All right, meanwhile, fresh tensions are flaring up in West Asia as Iran issues a provocative warning now, targeting the American companies operating in the region, raising concerns of a dangerous expansion of this conflict beyond the military zones, even as Washington, D.C. asserts it is fully in control, it's fully prepared to respond to such strikes. In fact, U.S. President Donald J. Trump has downplayed this threat from Iran, questioning the intent of Iran and the capability of Iran as well. But the rhetoric, if you see, ladies and gentlemen, from both the sides is signaling a standoff that's only deepening with global implications. Here's more.
Tensions in West Asia are spiraling once again, with Iran issuing a stark warning that has shocked global markets. Tehran has threatened to target American companies operating in the region. About 10 major tech firms, including Google, Amazon, and many more, calling them legitimate targets. IRGC claims that several US companies have been actively assisting both the United States and Israel through advanced artificial intelligence and surveillance technologies. According to Tehran, these technologies have been used to identify and track and target top Iranian military and intelligence leaders, many of whom were killed in precision strikes over the past few weeks, including Iranian Navy Chief Ali Reza Tangsiri. Iran alleges that these firms are not just bystanders, but key enablers in what it calls targeted assassinations, with AI systems helping process vast amounts of data to pinpoint high-value individuals. Washington, however, has responded with a firm stance, making it clear that US forces are fully prepared to counter any aggression.
Made a statement. What did they threaten them with? I don't know. Tell me, how did they threaten them? You don't even know what the threat was. What was the threat? I haven't heard it. What was the threat? Did they say they're going to blow them up? They're going to hit them? They're not. You know what they're not going to do? They're not going to hit them with a nuclear weapon. Most of those people are dead already.
With both sides unwilling to back down, The situation remains on edge and the world watches closely as West Asia stands at the brink of another potential flashpoint.
Right, we have some breaking news coming in right now, viewers. This is an incident that is being reported from Chandigarh. Explosion has been heard outside BJP headquarters in Chandigarh, and that's the preliminary information. Alert has been sounded in Chandigarh following the explosion outside the BJP headquarters. So that's, of course, a very concerning situation. We do not have anything as far as what is behind this explosion. We'll try and connect for more with our correspondents for more understanding of as to what really has happened. But this is an explosion that has been heard outside the BJP headquarters in Chandigarh, and now alert has been sounded in Chandigarh following this report. I'll try and get you more details. The blast reported outside the BJP office. Police have reached the spot. Police is investigating the matter. We'll just play out those visuals that we have received. Police is at the spot. This is near the headquarters of BJP in Chandigarh, and the police has been rushed to the spot. They are present at the spot as we speak, and they are currently investigating the matter. We do not have any official word right now, as of now, from the police as to what really has happened, what has caused this blast, and has there been any damage. We do not know this right now. And you've seen that BJP had, in fact, this is an important headquarters. It had last year, just a year ago, it was shifted from Rohtak to Panchkula, and this is now coming in from outside the headquarters. That there's an explosion that has been reported. We're waiting for more updates on that development. Okay, this is the update that we have. That's a fresh visual. We can see a scooter that is being parked. I don't know if it's damaged. These are the visuals of the aftermath. You can see right now, this is a visual. We'll try and show more. This is how there's some damage you can see in the vehicle, and there's a car that has been damaged. Lalit, my colleague, joins us live on the broadcast. Lalit, tell us more details about this blast, please.
Half an hour before in Chandigarh in Sector 37, a blast has been reported in this scooty. The blast has been reported outside the Punjab BJP head,
which is located in Sector 37 in Chandigarh. A scooter was blasted in that, and as per the inputs what the Republic TV has access right now, police is further investigating this
whole matter. If we talk about half an hour before when the blast took place, the information, police have already reached the spot and the area has been completely turned off. Apart from that, the forensic team has already reached the spot and are trying to look after what was the reason of this spot. So the Chandigarh SSP Kamaldeep has already reached the spot and the area has been cordoned off. Luckily, no one has been hurt in this explosion. While now police is looking after the CCTV footage, which is located in the nearby areas. So half an hour before, explosion was being reported in Sector 37 outside the BJP office in the scooty which was parked there. Back to the studio.
Right. Any information as to what really caused this? Because we see that the shrapnel has been found. There's a scooty that can be seen damaged. Any other information as to nature of the blast is concerned?
Right now police is looking after and is further investigating the whole matter. As per the initial inputs, luckily no one has been hurt, but yes, it's the BJP offices nearby and the scooty was parked nearby. So police is looking after on all angles, and police is right now taking the CCTV footages of the nearby areas. Half an hour before when this blast took place, luckily no one was there, but the scooty has been damaged, and after the blast, very soon the police could be seen reaching the spot. The area has been completely cordoned off, and the police is further looking after this matter. Back to the studio.
Majid, we'll just come back to you in short while from now as you try and get more information on this development. Serious incident has been reported from the BJP headquarters, Chandigarh. We'll be right back, viewers, with more on this.
प्यास बुझाए ठंडक लाए सबको भाई जीरा सिम MDH का जलजीरा जीरा सिम
जीरा सिम असली रिफ्रेशिंग असली स्वाद असली मजा
MDH केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे केसरिया से मन जोगी
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार विमल बोलो जुबान केसरी
प्योर शाही पनीर मसाला डिलीशियस हेल्दी एवरीडे।
हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें हर चुनौती के लिए तैयार रहना ही होगा। जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं। आदरणीय सभापति जी, ये संकट अलग प्रकार का है और इसके समाधान भी अलग प्रकार से ही तय किए जा रहे हैं। हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है।
All right, viewers, we have some breaking news coming in. Explosion has now been reported outside Punjab BJP headquarters in Chandigarh, in the capital city. In fact, now we're looking at some explosion taking place outside BJP headquarters. It's a breaking news development. We're still awaiting more details about the damage caused and if there have been any casualties. But the latest is that there has been an explosion now reported. In fact, the police have already reached the spot and investigation has begun in this case. We're getting you live visuals, in fact, from outside the BJP headquarters in Punjab. This is where explosion has been reported in Chandigarh. All right, my colleague who's present on the spot is now going to help us with more details. Lalit, what do we know about this blast?
If you talk about this blast, it has taken place half an hour before outside the BJP headquarters in Chandigarh, which is located in sector 37. After the blast, now police have already reached the spot. The Chandigarh police with the forensic investigation team have already reached the spot, and they are further looking after this whole matter. Apart from that, if we talk about, luckily no one has been hurt in this explosion which has taken place, but the police is taking after this matter, whole matter, as the CCTV footage from the nearby areas has been taken into account. So police is further investigating this whole matter. The area has been cordoned off after the blast. The forensic team has already reached the spot. The CFSL team could be seen collecting the samples, and they are further looking after this whole matter.
All right, Lalit, so as of now, CFSL team and police, they both reached the spot. No casualties reported, and the entire area around the BJP headquarters has been cordoned off. Do we know anything about the investigation so far?
Well, if we talk about the investigation, investigation is going on in this matter. As the blast which has taken place in Chandigarh, it has taken place outside the Chandigarh in Sector 37, which is the headquarters of the Punjab BJP. So already the Chandigarh SSP have reached the spot. Apart from that, the CFSL team, the forensic team are taking after the sample. What type of blast was it? As in this blast, when this blast took place, after that, the area has been cordoned off. So police is looking after all possible angles of this blast, but luckily no one has been hurt in this blast.
Right, so all angles are right now being probed in this blast. Do we know anything about the explosives which were used in this explosion, Lalit?
Right now, police is investigating this whole matter. Police is tight-lipped as the team is further doing the investigation. As the CFSL Chandigarh team, the forensic team have already reached the spot. They are looking after all possible angles behind the blast. And further, after the sample which we right now also the CFSL team is taking outside the office, they have made a complete graph of all the things of the events which have taken place. So the CC is also being taken into account. The number is C801B6033. So they are looking after all possible angles of CC also. And what is the cause? By what time did the blast took place? So on all possible angles right now, police is further investigating this whole matter. Back to the studio.
All right. So at this point, we are looking at investigation. All angles are being probed right after this blast took place outside BJP headquarters in Chandigarh. Now, Lalit, do we know anything about the leaders which were present inside the headquarters at the time of the blast?
Well, if you talk about the leader, that time the Punjab chief spokesperson Vineet Joshi had been there, and he was the one who had listened about the blast when this blast took place around 5:15 in the evening, and after that he informed the Chandigarh police. Right now with us is also the BJP spokesperson, Mr. Vineet Joshi. He will further tell you by what time this whole blast took place. I'm just handing over the headphones to Mr. Vineet Joshi.
All right, so at this point, the latest that we know about this explosion is that entire area has been cordoned off. Police, CSFL, all of their teams are present on the spot, and no casualties were reported in this explosion that took place right outside the BJP headquarters in Chandigarh. And at this point, all angles are being probed. What exactly triggered this blast? Who were behind this explosion? And what kind of explosives were used in this blast? Now, all angles, viewers, are being probed at this point, but good news is that no casualties have been reported in this explosion. And you can see on your screen also how CSFL team, police, they are on the spot, and the entire area around the BJP headquarters, a building, has been cordoned off at this point of time. My colleague Lalit is still with us. He's getting us all the latest updates on this. All right, we'll try to connect with him later. But viewers, that's the big breaking news of this hour. An explosion has now been reported outside BJP's headquarters in Chandigarh. It is the Sector 37 BJP office, outside which the explosion was reported. At this point, you can see on your screen, the entire area, the entire perimeter around the headquarters has been cordoned off. You have a CFSL team, police, all have reached the spot to conduct investigation. And more questions will be answered as investigation, of course, goes ahead. But right now, no casualties have been reported in this blast that took place outside BJP's office in Sector 37 of Chandigarh. That's the big takeaway we're picking up at this moment. And police, of course, is conducting investigation into the cause of the blast, which is still not clear at this point. What exactly triggered the blast? Who planted this explosive outside the BJP headquarters? All of these details are yet to be ascertained, but as you can see on your screen right now, the investigation is still underway. They're collecting the evidence from the site of the attack from outside the BJP headquarters. You can see on your screen how CFSL team, all their members are still collecting the evidence from the site of the attack. Now, this took place outside BJP's headquarters. It is a big news as political leaders could be the target of this explosion, but fortunately, no leaders have been caused, no harm has been caused in this explosion, and no casualties have taken place. But right now, investigation is still on to uncover more answers. You can see on your screen also how the entire stretch around the headquarters has been cordoned off. Police on the spot along with the CSFL team to try and get more evidence about this blast. All right, Lalit now joins us live for more updates on this. Lalit, do tell us, where are we with the investigation? We, of course, can see the entire area being cordoned off and CSFL team now conducting their investigation. All right, Lalit, do tell us what's exactly the stage of the investigation so far. Now, the entire area has been cordoned off, and it seems the team is now collecting some evidence from the site.
5:15 p.m. in the evening, a blast has been reported outside the BJP headquarters of Punjab, which is located in sector 37 in Chandigarh. So, after the blast, the police team have already reached the spot and they are further investigating this whole matter. You can see behind me that the CFSL Chandigarh team could be seen collecting the samples. A team could be seen taking out all these samples. Apart from that, you can see the scooty which has been outside, in which you can see that the numbering is being done by the CFSL team. The scooty was parked, the Activa was parked when this blast took place. Immediately after the blast, the Chandigarh police have already reached the spot. They are further investigating this whole matter. The area has been cordoned off, as the main point is that the blast has taken place outside the BJP headquarters, which is located in sector 37 Chandigarh. So these are the visuals which you can see that this is the BJP headquarters of Chandigarh behind me, and outside just the scooty was being parked. So this is the security force now which has been deployed outside the BJP headquarters after the blast took place. The whole area, you can see, has been cordoned off, and police is further looking after this whole matter. So around 5:15 in the evening, this blast took place. Right now with us is the BJP team members of the sector 37 office. जानना चाहेंगे कितने बजे के आसपास ये ब्लास्ट हुआ, क्या हुआ?
4 बजे हम अंदर बैठे थे हाँ तो अचानक एक आवाज आई बहुत जोर, ऐसे लगा कि 2 गाड़ियां गिर गई वहां और आगे देखा तो पार्किंग में गुबार था, उड़ रहा था धुआं और व्यक्ति को देखा स्कूटर में कुछ ब्लास्ट टाइप हुआ। चेतन एक कार का शीशा टूटा हुआ है, उसके बाद पुलिस आ गई है।
जब ये ब्लास्ट हुआ उस समय कोई हताहत तो नहीं हुआ है?
कोई
अच्छा, एक चीज बताइए, ये जो स्कूटी है ये किसकी स्कूटी है? अपने एम्प्लॉइज की स्कूटी है? किसकी, कौन है वो, क्या काम करता है यहाँ पे? IT विभाग में काम करता है। तो ये आपका अपना एम्प्लॉय है?
जो कार डैमेज हुई है वो भी हमारा एम्प्लॉय।
अच्छा, नहीं तो ब्लास्ट कितनी जोर से हुआ था?
ये लगा कि 2 गाड़ियां गोली मारी है किसी ने, जब
So, as per the eyewitness who have listened, the explosion sound, they said that around 4:45 p.m. in the evening, this blast took place, and there was a cloud of smoke after the blast, and after that, the police was being informed, and immediately police have reached the spot. The Chandigarh SSP could be seen further investigating this whole matter. The complete area has been cordoned off. The CFSL Chandigarh team could be seen here collecting the samples. What type of blast was it? What was the intensity of the blast? So, on all possible angles right now, the Chandigarh police could be seen investigating this matter. Apart from that, when we had a word with the people of the BJP office, they said that the scooty is of their employee and it has been parked outside the office only. So, police is looking after on all possible angles. What sort of a blast was it? As luckily, no one has been hurt in this blast. Back to the studio.
Right, Lalita. So those are the latest updates coming to light about the explosion that has taken place outside BJP's headquarters in Chandigarh. Thanks for joining us, and viewers. Now shifting focus to our show called 6 Stories at 6. We'll get you all the updates regarding what's happening in West Asia. And now on to a massive geopolitical flashpoint, one that could in fact redefine global power equations. Now, in the middle of an escalating war with Iran, US President Donald Trump has dropped a bombshell. He suggested that the US could now actually walk away from NATO. Now, yes, this means America pulling out of the world's most powerful military alliance. So what exactly the trigger here? Well, Europe's refusal to back Washington in its war against Iran and its resistance to even support operations around the Strait of Hormuz. So the question is this just pressure tactics or the beginning of the end of NATO? Take a look at this report.
A shockwave across the Western alliance, US President Donald Trump now openly threatening to walk away from the NATO, calling the alliance a paper tiger and saying exiting NATO is beyond reconsideration. The trigger: Europe's refusal to join the US-Israel war against Iran. Key allies like Spain, Italy and France have blocked airspace, denied base access and refused to support the combat operations.
NATO is the single most effective military alliance the world has ever seen, and it has kept us safe for many decades, and we are fully committed to NATO. Secondly, that whatever the pressure on me and others, whatever the noise, I'm going to act in the British national interest in all the decisions that I make. And that's why I've been absolutely clear that this is not our war, and we're not going to get dragged into it. But I'm equally clear that when it comes to defence and security and our economic future, we have to have closer ties with Europe.
Bueno, creo que todo el mundo sabe cuál es la posición española, es una posición muy clara. No vamos a autorizar, desde el principio lo hemos dicho, la utilización de las bases de Morón y Rota para ningún acto relativo a la guerra de Irán, y en ese sentido desde el primer momento se le trasladó clarísimamente al ejército americano y a las fuerzas americanas, y por lo tanto ni se autorizan las bases y por supuesto tampoco se autoriza la utilización del espacio aéreo español para actuaciones que tengan que ver con la guerra en Irán.
Even as the Strait of Hormuz remains blocked, Europe has refused to join US efforts to reopen this critical oil route. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio backing the president, saying Washington may need to re-examine the tie, questioning whether the alliance has become a one-way street. On the ground, the consequences are real. US operations are being stretched, forced into longer routes with limited support infrastructure. This is no longer just a war in West Asia, it is a test of the transatlantic alliance itself. The big question now, is this strategic pressure or the beginning of NATO's biggest crisis in decades?
And now we are about 4 weeks into the war in West Asia, and the US is finally leaving, claiming it has done what it intended to do, eliminate Iran's weapon-yielding capabilities. And now that the US claims it has achieved the goal it's set for in this war, they're ready to move out. Now, the US asserts it is confident of a regime change in the country, and that's happened twice, according to Donald Trump's claim, while also adding that the new regime is much more accessible as well as reasonable. Here's more on what Trump has said about leaving this war. Take a look.
US President Donald Trump has made strong statements on leaving Iran and regime change in the country. Starting his conversation around the recent Venezuelan war, US President Donald Trump said he is confident of having the strongest military in the world.
Look at our military. We have the strongest military. Look what happened in Venezuela. It was so incredible.
All right, viewers, have got a new statement from US President Donald Trump regarding the new regime in Iran. Now, he goes on to say, and I quote him, Iran's new regime president, much less radicalized and far more intelligent than his predecessors. He also said he has now just asked the US for a ceasefire. He also goes on to say, we will consider when Hormuz Strait is open, free and clear. Until then, we are blasting Iran into oblivion, or as they say, back to the Stone Ages. Now, it is a big claim made by Donald Trump that Iran right now is asking for a ceasefire. It's the president of the new regime who has now asked Donald Trump for a ceasefire. Trump also goes on to say that until the Strait of Hormuz is opened, we will not be going into the ceasefire. In fact, we will be blasting Iran into oblivion, or as they say, back to the Stone Ages. Now, that's the latest statement coming in from Donald Trump regarding a ceasefire that could take place, a potential ceasefire in the West Asia war. Trump says the new regime, which is headed by a more intelligent and more reasonable president, is now asking for a ceasefire from the US. In fact, he also goes on to say that until Strait of Hormuz is open, we will only consider the ceasefire deal. Until Strait of Hormuz is not opened, ceasefire cannot be on the table. He also goes on to say we will be blasting Iran into oblivion, or back to the Stone Ages. Now, viewers, it does seem that the balance which had in fact gone into Iran's favor could now be tipping back to the US side, as Donald Trump now claims that it is Iran which is asking for a ceasefire in this conflict. Now, he says that Iran's new regime president, who is less radicalized and also far more intelligent, has just asked the US for a ceasefire. He also goes on to say we will consider the deal if the Strait of Hormuz is opened and is free. Until then, we will keep blasting Iran. So it does seem that Donald Trump has put his own conditions for a ceasefire deal to be agreed upon. He says that until and unless there is freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz, we will not be agreeing to a ceasefire, which means the Strait of Hormuz and its blockade still remains the bone of contention, still remains the major contested issue between Iran and the US. And this time Iran, it seems, is asking for a ceasefire according to Donald Trump's claims. It's the latest statement that is coming from the US President Donald Trump, who says that the new regime, it's the third regime according to him, because he's already killed all the leaders of the first and the second regime. So he now says the third regime and the president of the new regime is much less radicalized and more intelligent, and therefore they have now asked for a ceasefire from the United States. But he also goes on to put a condition on a ceasefire, saying that he will not go ahead with this. All right, my colleague Niranjan now joins in more details on this. And Niranjan, it is a big statement from Donald Trump, who now says that Iran here has asked for a ceasefire, while Trump seems to be putting a condition on that, that is the blockade of Strait of Hormuz must be removed.
Well, it's a very interesting claim coming on a day when you have the IRGC take de facto control of the Iranian government. And Donald Trump in his latest tweet has just claimed, and I'm reading, he says, Iran's new regime president. Now, we know that Pezeshkian is the current president, and he is still alive and very much tweeting frequently, giving out sound bites. and was also seen on the streets of Tehran about 24 hours ago. Now, Pezeshkian also said that the war could end if they agree to security guarantees. Now, we don't know whether Donald Trump is referring to Pezeshkian when he puts out this tweet, but he has said the new regime president, Iran's new regime president, he's much less radicalized, far more intelligent than his predecessors, and has just asked the United States of America for a ceasefire. Once again, Donald Trump not naming who this president is or who he is referring to, or whether it is Pezeshkian or someone else. But, very interesting that the question was put yesterday to the Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister by Arnab on Republic. And he refused to, respond to the word regime and mentioned that Iran is not a one-man country. And he did, of course, confirm that mediation was on. And it's all sort of adding up. What it did confirm is talks are on, or rather, should I say, mediation has been on. Who the mediators are, we don't know. But it's clear that they are speaking to someone within the establishment in Iran. And it is someone who's still very much in Iran, whether it's Pezeshkian or some reports quoted it as being Ghalibaf, the speaker, we don't know. But Trump refers to this person as the new president. He says the new regime president, which means Trump is, and America is looking at this particular person as the new regime president, and is acknowledging that he's much less radicalized and far more intelligent. But the news point here is that Donald Trump also in the same tweet says that US will consider the ceasefire. He says we will consider the ceasefire when the Strait of Hormuz is open, free and clear. Now, that is the most critical aspect. And when we spoke to the Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister yesterday, Ismail Baghai, in that interview to Arnab Goswami, mentioned that, keeping the Strait of Hormuz closed was a wartime measure. It was not permanent. And that they had to sort of do that to teach their enemies a lesson. And they had to sort of do that, take complete control to ensure that only the non-hostile countries pass the Strait of Hormuz, hostile nations don't pass through the Strait of Hormuz, and that there is no escalation there. So, very interesting series of developments. One, you had a confirmation that mediation has been on. Two, you have Donald Trump now confirming, obviously via intermediaries and the mediation, that they have asked for a ceasefire. We don't know whether it's the truth, by the way, because Donald Trump, he says something, takes that back, flips the page. Nobody can take Donald Trump seriously, but it's a build-up to what is happening tomorrow morning, 6:30 a.m. India time. Donald Trump will be addressing, that's 9 p.m. Eastern time. He's going to be addressing the people of America on the war. Now, there is speculation that Donald Trump, believed to be the master of TACO, T-A-C-O, or the famous saying that Trump always chickens out. He did mention yesterday that whether the Strait of Hormuz is opened or not, there could be an end to the war. So last evening he said even if it's not open, he's going to end the war. And today he's saying that they've asked for a ceasefire, and the ceasefire can't happen until the Strait of Hormuz is open. So interesting series of developments on a day, once again, when the IRGC, some Iranian media reports said, IRGC has taken de facto control of the government in Iran, ensuring that there is no politician in charge as such, that they take over the administrative control completely during the war, and that the same report also mentioned some tension between Pezeshkian and the IRGC. Now, is Pezeshkian the person who America is engaging with? We don't know. Is that why there is tension? We don't know. But interesting series of developments that have come in, and the fact that Donald Trump has confirmed that there is a call